everybody? Is everybody okay? I'm going to turn myself up a little bit louder. I'll drop the music off again. That is our theme tune of the day, which is really good. Everybody seems to like that theme tune. It's actually built into the desk thing that Rode has provided, but it's really good, and I really enjoy actually kind of being the DJ for a minute, which is kind of nice, you know. All audio seems to be working today. We seem to be okay. I figured out this bleeding desk. All is well. The Rode desk thing that's over there. Some upgrades to the office as well, as you can see here in front of me, which is kind of weird. You won't be able to see them all because right now in front of me here there's a massive coloured keyboard thing. I think I can show you there. See the keyboard doing all those coloured bits. So got that and this chair. So I'm going to have to show you the chair. Everybody settled in for a minute till I show you the chair. The chair has a remote control. Okay? And the reason it has a remote control is because the chair won't light up now. What's wrong with you? No, it won't come on. There we go. There's the chair. The chair lights up. Did anyone ever see that stuff before, huh? What's the story with that? It's from Trust Gaming. The guys in Portlaoise, Telfords, have done this to my chair, also to my desk, and I have like this. You could now possibly land an airplane here. There's enough lights in the room to keep everybody happy. It's quite good, isn't it? We'll make the audio a little bit louder for everybody, make sure everybody can hear everything. The chair is fantastic. Honest to God, that is just, look at that thing go. And you can have it any colour you want as well. Look, red. Just want red. That's it. You're done. Just want green. You can have green all from the remote control. Little remote control behind your blue. And just put it on auto and it just does this wild rainbow colour stuff. It's very, very cool and sexy, I have to say. These headphones are also Trust headphones. They are probably the best headphones I've ever put on in my life. They're gaming headphones. So you can put a mic onto this side of it over here. I'm obviously using my big Rode mic here in front of me, so I'm not using that. But it is very, very good. Good to see you all joining in. It's been a very busy week, particularly since the last Sunday service where we were trying to figure out the service costs of electric cars. It came up multiple times over the week. Some people didn't like the investigation. Actually, many people didn't like the investigation. Other people did like it. Most people enjoyed it. Generally speaking, most people thought it was a good idea to check out these prices and for my open call to dealerships to be more clear with your customers when it comes to the pricing of service costs and things around your car. Even this week, I was reading a little report about electric cars using tyres faster than normal cars. Not necessarily because the car is heavier. It's more to do with the fact there's more torque, and it just rips the tire off when you're doing it. So it's a kind of an odd one to think of, but it's actually true. So it's been coming particularly with the front-wheel drive cars. Obviously, the rear-wheel drive cars might not have the same sort of effect on it because they're pushing the car along. You might not get as much wheel spin, but you still will at the same time. Mick is in the house. Good afternoon, Mick. Jason Thompson, happy Easter from, it is of course Easter. I should have a happy zombie day, some people call it. The day that Jesus was meant to come back to life or something. I think, I'm not a big religious person, but it does strike me that normally on Easter Sunday, we close the shops and maybe the pubs stay open, but we close the shops essentially. But sure, nothing changed. The shops were closed anyway. Although, thankfully, some of the grocery guys will be closed down as well today because even the grocery employees deserve a little bit of time at home with the fam, you know, for a day off here and there, which is pretty good. William Bellingham is here. Happy Easter Sunday service. This is, of course, everything's Sunday service. Last night I did the same thing on live. I said it on TikTok about the Sunday service. You might go, what do you say mass as well as being a modern journalist? What's the story of that? So funny. Thank you all for clicking the like on the way in. If you wouldn't mind, please pass on the message that this exists, because then YouTube sends us more people, which is very nice of YouTube to do that. Frank Metcalf is here as well. Good man, Frank. Haven't seen your name pop up in a while. Robert Mulhall is here too. Boris Johnson. That's a name I wasn't expecting to see. What's everybody's dream daily driver? Yeah, that's a good idea. What would you like to drive? I mean, the conversation is going electric all the time. And even when I met my friend Paddy yesterday, he's driving an ID4, the new ID4, and he stopped off in Portlaoise for a charge of the car. And the conversation that broke out around the car, just the car being there, is so funny. It's the same thing happened with the Lexus, the same thing happened with the Mazda MX-30 that I'm driving. When you pull up to an electric charge point, you're forced to talk. Some people, if you don't like talking to people in the street, don't buy an electric car. You end up talking to people about electric cars the whole time. They're very friendly. So people tend to pull up beside you and charge their car, and then they want to see what your car is as well, see what kind of range you're getting, any advice, any cool things you can do with your electric car. So yesterday was literally ID4 day as we stood there out in the open, beautiful sunshine beaming down us, and people all around the car having a look. And it's funny to see the curiosity, because ID4 does look very different from the rest of the kind of, it doesn't necessarily look like an SUV, but it is sort of that size. It's actually bigger than a Tiguan, the wheelbase is. So it was quite cool to see it yesterday. I'll have the ID4 in a couple of weeks' time as well for a proper longer drive. There's now a queue for my home charge point, as I have an electric car that's here all the time, and then more electric cars turn up. I have charged at a couple of fast charge stations. They're on dependable speed. I find most electric cars all charge at different speeds for some reason. They all seem to be high and low. It's kind of weird to work it out. But the MX-30 is what I'm currently driving this week. Super car to drive, brilliant, but the range is just so short on it. It really is hampered by, and then there's those two back doors, the back doors that open the opposite directions from each other in the old RX-7 mode. Lovely to hark back to that time, but realistically, practicality wise, it's just going to the shops with the kids in the back is a pain in the hole. So it's kind of weird. Jimmy Penrose, who started a big conversation last week, is still on the case. Good afternoon, everybody. Some progress made this week, thanks yourself, but Kia need to go a lot further. Doesn't seem to be an issue with Hyundai. Kia need to answer why they are the only brand. My investigation this week suggests that they're not the only brand who do what Kia is doing. They're the ones that are telling you that they're doing it because you're high mileage. Now Tesla, no, they're not doing anything with battery coolant stuff. They're not looking to do that kind of thing. But I think I have off record some other car companies saying, yeah, we do change the fluids after time. It might be 5 years. It might be the second owner that got it. But Jimmy here is a 50,000 kilometre a year driver. And for anyone who wasn't here last week, I'll just show you again just for the buzz of it, right? So last week, just check my sure I'm right here. Last week, Jimmy got a quote which started out like this. Tell me that audio. It is, yeah. Okay. The audio is still working, right? Just checking to make sure audio is still going out. Anyway, the quote started like this. But realistically, the actual quote that came out ended up being this. So the quote changed overnight from 990 quid to 515 euro because the price that the Kia had quoted for the actual part was entirely different. And so the price for the part number itself was wrong. And Kia issued a statement to all its dealerships to explain as to what the part number to use, so it would go to 515 euro. Now, you'll notice at the top of that from last week that the service has to be carried out every 45,000 kilometres, which means if you're a 50,000 kilometre driver per year, which it seems that Jimmy is, that's every 10 months. So that's quite an expense every 10 months for an electric car. So it is worth reading the fine print on the cars you're driving and the electric cars you're buying. If Kia has done this, you can be sure they won't be the only one who will have to change the fluids. There must be a reason behind it. Now, I would expect that similar sort of charge to come up for a petrol or diesel car, because you'd end up doing timing belts or something as well. It'd be the same kind of high price job. But realistically, that just strikes me as being something we haven't discussed before, which has been service costs. The vast majority of electric cars can be serviced quite reasonably priced. Just very much depends on your mileage. You know, they are generally cheaper to service than a petrol or diesel car, but it just depends on how often you're going to drive them. But it's an argument for another day again. Eric Rochford, afternoon all. Happy Easter. Some nice upgrades, beautiful upgrades, have to say. If you're looking for the stuff, give Telford's in Portlaoise a call. They're definitely worth a call. Now, obviously, they're probably closed this weekend. Might be open now, but they're probably closed tomorrow. I'd imagine it's a bank holiday tomorrow. Cross 13 is here as well. Irish Runners here as well. Raymond Grace, hi Bob, happy Easter. In India, they drive on the same side as Ireland. Maybe we should get our car. Well, if you ever watch any of the videos from India, they seem to drive on whatever side of the road they want. Which is sure it's there. There is Indian car manufacturers. I mean, India, what do you call it? Tata is an Indian company. They own Volvo, I think. So there is Indian companies within the European Union making cars, selling cars, but they're not. So it's very hard to start a car brand, I would suggest. If you were going to start from nothing, I'd say you'd have a tough old time trying to get a car brand off the market now. But it is common. We will have more Chinese brands. We will have more Indian brands coming on the market. But it'd be nice to see them come into the market, to be honest with you. Gives a bit more choice. It'll also mean that the European manufacturers have to up their game a bit to make sure that they can stay relevant for what the market consumers want. You have to remember that most of the car manufacturers in Ireland, or not in Ireland, but most of the car manufacturers in Europe have to support the current fleet of cars that are out there. So there's a pile of, the vast majority of cars on the road are petrol or diesel powered at some point, whether it be hybrids or otherwise. There's still an engine in there somewhere, and they still have to be supported. So it's not like we just throw the baby out with the bathwater and just go, let's all go electric. You have to support all them. So it's the same for any company coming into the country. Tesla got a great head start because they don't have to support anything. They just walk in and go, no, forget about it. Don't worry about it. So it'll be the same for anyone else who's going to start with their cars in this country as well. Sean Murray's here. Robert Madden's here. Paul O'Connor's here. Take me something or other. When backing out of a parking space, always put on your hazard lights because there's a percentage of people who will walk out on purpose behind you when reversing the street to get combo. Your hazard warning lights aren't going to save you. They're still going to walk in the street behind you. If they're after compensation for you, they're still just going to get hit by the car. The lights aren't going to save you. Your reverse lights do come on in the back. Cross traffic assist. You shouldn't really be reversing into the street. You should be reversing into your space. Anyone driving into the street, any kind of advanced driver's course, and that will teach you that kind of thing. You should always reverse into any parking space of any kind. A lot of parking spaces in Ireland are actually the wrong way around. We tend to filter into a space, so they're kind of you're forced to go nose in on some of the spaces. Whereas when you go to a lot of other countries, the space is the other way around, so you have to reverse into space anyway. But you should always be reversing into a space and then driving back out of the space, not the other way around. If you have to back into the street, you're meant to get someone standing behind you, making sure there's nothing happening. That you have a point man who would be called out behind you. Andrew Breen, happy Easter. All my advice on car care products: wash products for hand use. Now that we have some sun. Oh no, never polish your car in the sun. It's good advice, that one straight off. If it's in direct sunlight, do not put polish on the car. You will melt the paint off the car. You'll take lumps of the car away. I've always used Audit Lim generally. The polish that Audit Lim put out has been pretty good. I don't have anywhere particular to buy it now. Obviously Motor Factory would be the best place to go for, but there's nowhere that I have hooked up with to do any particular car polishes or anything like that. But Audit Lim has been pretty good for me over the years. Maguire's is also another good one for the shampoo and for the tire shine, which I quite like their tire shine stuff. So I quite like that, but never polish it on a really hot direct sunlight day because your paint is already, easy to remove from the car at that point. Irish Runner, Jesus, the music. Do you not like the music? Oh, that's terrible. It's only on for about 3.7 seconds, just for a laugh. We're only putting it on for a laugh. Mick says the audio's a bit low. It's up full now, Mick. It should be okay now, is it? William Bellingham is here as well. Love the chair. I love the chair as well. Isn't it sexy? Isn't it cool? It's got lovely pads as well. That pad behind my back, actually, when you're leaning back to play video games, it's nicer. From next week, I'll be doing some Twitch stuff as well. So Twitch streaming. I've been working on another OBS. I use OBS Studio for this, which transmits all the stuff I want to put out. But there's another one called Stream OBS or something like that. So I'm going to be using that next week to be doing some Twitch streaming, which I have a couple of games which would be worth playing as well. Car Mechanic Simulator would be a bit of a laugh. And I'm trying to get a steering wheel, so we can do that too. So nothing to do with you guys as normal guys. This is just video gaming stuff, which everybody asks me about video gaming stuff. They all want to beat Bob. You know what I mean? Also next week, or possibly today, if we pull the trigger on it, this merch will be out, which is my hoodies and t-shirts and all that stuff will be out as well today on bobflavin.com. If you want to go over and sign up to that, if you just click on bobflavin.com and go in and put your email address in, you'll get an email address. You get an email to say it's open. I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to send you any information, none of that stuff. You'll just get an email from the site to say it's now open. You come and see the stuff. We have 4 products on it: hoodies, hats, snoods, and a running hoodie or a running snood thing. I don't know what you call them. They're kind of a scarf put around your neck. It's pretty cool. Have them up on your website. It's just there in store. You won't be able to buy it from the website, Sarah. This chair, if you're talking about this chair thing, you won't be able to get this from the website because it is literally a brand new product on the Trust Gaming scene. But it is available in store. Portlaoise, Telford's is an in-store place. So it's an electrical outlet thing. It's a bit like, DID Electrical or one of those kind of places. You can check them out by going to Portage. You want to. There's literally got one stand in the middle of the floor. I was messing with it yesterday, and that's what pushed me over the edge to have the remote control. I now have a remote control for all kinds of things. Like this remote control runs the lights in the background. That one's back there. And you would not believe, but this remote control runs a desk that you can't see here in front of me, which also lights up. So now I have lights out everywhere. Even my mouse lights up. Look. It's all Trust stuff. So check out the range of Trust gaming gear if you want to get any hold of it. I don't know affiliate links, no, nothing like that. It's just the kind of stuff I was looking at yesterday, and it just all works. Particularly these headphones. If you're into audio on video games, lads, the headphones are deadly. Anyway, enough of that. Happy Easter, Bob. Is there any way I can add Bluetooth to a car that doesn't have... Well, you can. A couple of ways of doing it. What we used to do in the Leon, because I didn't want to change out the stereo from the original of the Leon. So what we did was we hooked in into the 12-volt socket, we hooked in a little transmitter thing that used to transmit on the FM band. Now, that can be a little bit hit and miss, because sometimes it connects up and sometimes the FM band disappears. When you drive further from home, you receive different stations and it comes up with different ones. So that can work sometimes, but the best way of it is to literally change the whole head unit. So you're changing the entire unit out. And like you could spend €200 or €300 on, an Android Auto one, or you could get something up in Halfords or one of the motor factors up there. And that, between that and a valeter, like if you spent that money, a new head unit and a valet would cost you maybe £500 total, fitted. You feel like a new car, right? If it had Bluetooth, touch screen, maybe even played like a PlayStation games or whatever, that kind of stuff you can get on those Android ones. Now you can get Apple CarPlay built into your head unit, but it is much more expensive, and it's not on every head unit, I'll tell you, that's for sure. So you'll have to be very careful of that one. But Android Auto for sure is available across all kinds of brands of head units. There's a couple of places that are online, like Chinese outlets that sell a lot of this stuff, but you can get them here in motor factories as well. And if the car is the right kind of car, you can easily change it out yourself. Wouldn't take too long. Nile Power. And you get a direct fit as well, so you get one that actually fits in the hole that was left there, because I like the Leon has a very strange screen. It takes over a big chunk of the dashboard, so I was going to change that out. Andy FX7, hi Bob and gang, and hope you're all well. Enjoying the bank holiday weekend as much as the rules allow. Yeah, I know, rules are still here. It doesn't feel like rules though. Does anyone else feel like this? I was up charging the car yesterday. I was filming the MX-30 yesterday, but I was charging as well, and that's that Portage Plaza was packed. Like people everywhere meeting and having a chat and talking. They're all outside, all keeping a social distance with one another. But I just feel that there's an element of rebellion, I think, happening in people's minds now. It's just kind of, it's over. I've had enough of it. Not doing anymore. That's it. We're just going to do it this way now. So that's kind of cool for people to do that. But you have to remember, we're still in restrictions. We still have numbers that are up, down, left, right. Not sure which way they're going to go. Vaccines happening out there as well, which is great news. It's just not happening very quickly. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, the numbers will fall low enough that we can get around our county and maybe even out of our county. And the other counties just do something else other than sit there. I'm lucky because I still have to work, so it's okay. But my wife and kids, we haven't been outside. As a family, we haven't been outside the 5K once. It's just crazy, it's hard work. But we'll get through it. Sarah Kelly, happy Easter here from all West Limerick in Ireland. Wow, down Limerick, brilliant place. Brilliant crack down there. I was down in Limerick City a good few times. It's a great old spot to come down to. Cora Keane says, lost English logbook for a van, nightmare trying to register it. Any changes in VRT since Brexit? Yes, VRT has increased by quite some distance. VRT is now huge, really, because if you're importing something from the UK now, they add 10% to the price, 10% plus the VAT to the price. So whatever that works out to be on the car you have. So your VRT has to be paid, then 10% on top of that, then VAT on top of that 10%. And it's become insane money now to bring in a car from the UK, yourself, on your own particularly. But even dealers are struggling. And it's about time dealers started struggling, in fairness to them, because dealers are just passing on the cost of VRT to the general public. And the general public are still getting rode into battle now at this stage with all the charges and things on it. So like dealers, you want to make your cars a little bit more affordable. You could put pressure on the manufacturers out there. You could put pressures on the SIMI. You could put pressures on the government to try and lower the VRT rate or do a better deal on that 10% of import duty. You've got to do something for your customer out there instead of just trying to take money out of them. Just saying, lads, relax, like, don't panic, don't think it's all against you, just saying that you could do more for your general public out there. As much as you do, you are the ones with the power of price. Does the chair massage? No, it doesn't massage. No, I wouldn't have bought it if it was a massage, to be honest. I hate those massage chairs. They get on your nerves because there's mechanical things that move around inside them. Not so bad in a car when you're driving along, every once in a while to be massaged by it, but more or less like, nah, wouldn't bother with it. Raymond Grace, happy Easter, Bob. They drive in India. Maybe we should buy some cars from them. Yeah, we should start importing. I don't know what kind of condition the cars in. Have you ever been to India? You ever watched some of the series? There's a guy called Stray Bob on YouTube here who has a series of himself walking across India. He walked from one side to the other. It's a very interesting series as to what it's like, but if you watch the driving in it, it is terrifying. And we'll be watching me emails there, make sure we're okay. Everyone's all right, yeah. A big shout out today as well. A competition is running on wonit.ie, which is to win a car. If you want to win we're raffling a car. The car is a Mercedes-Benz C220 diesel AMG, top spec version out. Absolutely gorgeous. Tickets are 15 quid. If you use the bonus number of Bob Merc 5, BOBMERC 5, you get 5% off that. Not much, but it's a little tiny saving. That is selling rather quickly. So I think there was 200 tickets or so, coming up on 200 tickets anyway, sold there in 24 hours. So if you want to get a hold of a ticket for that, do it quick. If you win, especially one of you lot, especially one of the Sunday service crowds, if one of you lot win and I find out it's you, I'm going to drive the car to your house. Come down and we'll have a little cup of tea or something. Or if we're still in restrictions, I'll throw the keys at you from the gate. It'll be something like that. One of them will happen. So that's worth doing. It's wonit.ie. You'll see it's the top competition on it, and it's for a beautiful white Mercedes C-Class. It's gorgeous. And it has every option ticked, like, you know, it opens the boot electrically. You can move the steering wheel around electrically. It's got touchscreen. It's got everything in it. It's a lovely, lovely car. 2015 one. That was really good. Totally VRT, totally Irish Red Plate would be on it. No extra cost whatsoever. You're going to get a car 15 quid. Monovision, hi, happy Zombie Day. Haven't heard that one before. Someone else said it to me this morning as well. It just came up with something else going, what do you call it? It was Zombie Day, yeah. Hi Bob, love the TikToks in a week. Yeah, well, I'm doing a lot of TikToks right now. TikTok has been huge, nearly at 100,000 followers, really. It won't take that long. And it's a lovely platform sometimes. It's an awful platform other times. It's not a very good place. Facebook is toxic. I think Facebook is terribly toxic. Not the Sunday service group on Facebook, but I think Facebook in general is desperately toxic now. I read a report last night that 40% of people who deleted their TikTok account felt that their life improved overnight. Isn't that wild? My God. And the rest of them thought that we're after getting therapy from just deleting TikTok. Not Facebook. Deleting their account entirely. So it is a very, very, very negative space. Be very careful there on TikTok that you don't get pulled down a hole of hatred. Like many people do on TikTok. Chrissy B, I'm not a fan of French cars, but the new Renault 5 looks great. The new Renault 5, Chrissy B, is one of my favourite looking cars that I've seen in years. I can't see my keyboard with the mic there. Talking about myself while I'm typing on my new keyboard. New Renault 5, images right here. There we go, that's what we're looking for. Hang on, I have to click my buttons here, make that happen. There we go. Here's our Renault 5s. So there's the older one, which is look at that thing. Isn't that just 1981 Alpine Turbo? Isn't that just phenomenal looking? Like, it's just so cute. Oh, look at the old advertising. Here's the old advertising. There's a Renault 5 Turbo, the original one. You can see by the big flared wheel arches. But that's what they're going for in the new one, which is going to be fully electric. I doubt it's going to look exactly like this, but it probably won't be far off, because right now it seems that when they make an electric car now, that they're just going concept, make it. They're not really, like, for years and years, I'd go along to big car shows, and you walk into the car show and there's some beautiful cars in there in front. You go, wow, that's amazing. That is awesome looking thing. And then you go, hold on a minute. The car that you're actually making looks nothing like the concept we seen 2 years ago. What's the story there? But now they just seem to be making the concept. They just throw out a concept and away they go. So it looks brilliant, Chrissy B. I totally agree with you. Despite months of trying to make him go with something sensible, I love the daily RX-8 my young lad has. RX-8s are gorgeous. RX-8s I don't know if you could drive it daily. I don't know if I'd have the patience to drive it daily, but Certainly, I think it's a beautiful looking car. RX-8s are, but they do eat. That's a very tiny picture. This is where they got the idea for the MX-30. So the two doors open there. It goes back further than that in Mazda history, but that's an RX-8, very badly washed RX-8. But there it is, Wikipedia. Thanks, Wikipedia, for showing us a dirty example of the car. There's a clean one now. But that's where they got the MX-30. The idea with the back doors opening that way as well. It does look that definite side. The MX-30 is lovely. It's on my Instagram. You might be able to see it on Instagram if I just go back here for a second. Instagram. No, that's not it. Technicalities. There we go. That went straight into my inbox. That's no good, is it? I did put this on my Instagram with the doors wide open. Oh, no, it's just a photograph of it. No, I thought I put it up with the doors wide open. Maybe I did that on TikTok. Anyway, no matter. So I put so many outlets, I can't remember where I'm putting things. It's terrible, isn't it? Where were we? Hi, Bob. Mick Daly. Hi, Bob. How does insurance work when testing cars every day for a few weeks? For me, car companies insure me. It's a little like a dealer policy. That's all. Same thing as a dealer, company cars and dealerships and stuff who put out stuff. It's because I'm working, because I'm reviewing it. So I kind of, technically, I don't know how they work it out, but I'm insured on every car by the car company more than me. Thankfully, because can you imagine having to ring the insurance company every time I change cars? Graham Cullen, happy Easter, thanks. Talking tires. In my first rear-wheel drive car, I went through a set of new tires in 9 months. It wasn't used to the power. That's the problem. That's the same problem that's happened with electric cars as well. They spin their wheels a little bit more often, particularly coming out of junctions. I find that the whole time. Every time you come out of a junction, it's like, just this little, that's like a little tiny piece of your tire going by. So it's not because, like a lot of people are saying that electric cars are going to be heavier on the car and heavier on the tires and all heavier. It's not really. It's more the fact that they're spinning their wheels more often. But yeah, rear-wheel drive, yes. I actually did it one day in a Golf R coming out of a junction, just coming out of a normal junction, and I was going to the right, and as I did, the whole car stepped out and had to correct it by going left again. So the whole thing went, and that's a four-wheel drive. It was that jittery. Very good though. Brilliant car. Loved it. We're expecting to have a new Tucson hybrid in the coming week. Are you? Well done. Thought you were going to go with the Lexus again. No. Not found the French cars despite trying to make them go. I'm nearly there. Catch them again. There's Graham. Paul O'Connor. I was in my friend's Taycan on Thursday last. Oh my God, it's amazing. But the car, our fashion status accessory. There is this element of fashion status. There is that with a lot of electric cars. Actually, really, the first kind of ones that were there are a little bit more of a fashion statement than they are now. People wanted electric cars to stand out, to make everyone know, I bought an electric car. This is not a petrol car, it's an electric car. So they wanted something that was very different. That was talked about at all the press conferences, which is why the early electric cars looked entirely different as cars from normal cars on the road. But now they're starting to come back towards good design. And that's, I think, what's starting to happen that's what happened with Taycan. It's very unusual. Some great colours in Taycan you can have as well. But it is a beautiful car. Once lockdown ends, I get a test for Taycan as well. Cross 13 says Castleknock is chock full of ID4s already. I know, I've seen it well into double figures of them in the last few days. It is the best-selling electric car in Ireland for March or January, February, March, or some 3-month period. It's the best-selling car out there. It is very big until you stand beside it. And you can see it from my video. It's one thing I point out just straight away. From the pictures, ID4 looked a certain size. Actually, standing beside it, it's a much bigger car than you think it is. But it's a very cool car. Such a big room in it, like just space to kind of hang out. I would advise you to get the glass panoramic roof. It might cost a little tiny bit more, but it's just it makes the whole thing feel like a kitchen, or I can't quite explain, like a living room or something. You're sitting in it. It's lovely. I still think that Kia quote for charging radiator fluid is I've never had to change the fluid in any of my liquid cooled EVs. EVs have no source of contamination to cause the fluid to go bad. That was what we were trying to investigate as well. And even when I rang Kia and talked to them directly about it, they were saying, no, it's definitely 45,000 kilometres, 47,000 kilometres, 50,000 kilometres. They all had a different answer. I know we went through a few things. So we checked with Kia Canada and we checked with a few other places as well. So to see what they're saying, because you're going to a different part of the world, it's different temperatures and things. So we're asking about that kind of thing. Was it something particular for Ireland that didn't make any sense? Why isn't Kia Australia or America doing it? So there's elements, there's still questions hanging in the air, and I suspect there's something going on that we don't know about. Now, I know Hyundai's batteries are not the same as Kia's batteries, but you have to still look at Hyundai's fires from the Kona, their recall going on with the Kona, which is to do with their batteries as well. So I'm not sure what the hell's going on, but there seems to be a lot of action around the edge of it. But I'd love to see a proper, I don't know, every EV owner should just keep in touch with us to make sure that if they suddenly find these charges coming up over the next couple of years where they're changing this battery fluid all of a sudden, and then you start questioning, why is it a sealed unit? Why are you changing the battery fluid? What happens in the battery that needs to have some fluids changed? Because it doesn't even make any sense. Hope you're having good weather. Perfectly blue sky here. A few clouds in it today. It's very warm. It's actually quite humidly warm now today. Not as bad as yesterday, though, I don't think, weather-wise. There was an American girl was texting me as well on Instagram or somewhere. I forget where now. But she was telling me that she couldn't believe it. She'd moved from America to here, where it was quite warm where she lived, and like 25 degrees would be warm. But she came here and 7 degrees is warmer. 7, 8, 9 degrees. It's like, oh my God, it's so warm here because it's our humidity. We have a weird way going on. Ian Burrell, happy Easter, Bob. Friend got a new XC40 self-charging hybrid. Great tech and smooth engine, but says he gets 31 miles per gallon. My Viva gets 45 from years ago. I got that. I know. You see, I think there's a bit of I can't explain. It's not that they're messing with it. They're just trying to do the best thing that a customer can do, for sure, right? Thanks, Jim, the bus driver who's received some money by PayPal. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Don't forget to support the channel. Definitely subscribe. Subscribe is the key factor. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, so that's the main thing to do. But with the self-charging hybrids, the thing is that the hybrids, they don't do... So if you're coming from diesel to petrol in a hybrid, you're definitely not going to get better fuel economy. That's 100% definitely not going to happen, right? That's number one. But number two, if you go from petrol to hybrid, you probably won't save a whole lot of fuel if you're going to spend most of your time on the motorway. Because the car still has an engine, and now you're putting a 70, 80, 90 kg battery into the car with you. So you're carrying around a passenger all the time in the car, always, and it's the same weight. Really, the step to make is PHEV isn't so bad if your range is quite short and you want to make short journeys to and from work or whatever it is. They're not so bad, but you still have the same problem in that you're still hauling around an engine or hauling around two engines, a motor and an engine. Or on the other end of that scale, if you go completely battery, then you can start to get into battery cars for a little bit more affordable money. So for similar kind of money, you can have one of those MGs that I'm driving, or you could get into the bottom end of something like a Renault Zoe, which is still one of my favorite electric cars. So I don't think the hybrid version of cars really save you any money over a diesel or a petrol. I really don't. I think they actually might end up costing you either more or the same. If you're putting 80 quid a week of diesel into a car and you change over to a hybrid, you're probably going to put in more petrol into that hybrid, and it's probably going to cost you 120, 130 to do the same mileage. So it's a weird one, but it comes up all right a lot. Hi, Mark Costigan. Thank you for being a full-time subscriber. Sport Overload likes the seat. The seat is good. The seat is good. You should see it at nighttime. It really does go wild at nighttime. It's wild. And it's all down by my legs as well, by the way. This isn't just the back of the seat that lights up to this. It comes all the way down around your legs at the bottom. It is super cool. Mick audio is fine now. Thanks, Mick. Naomi Cody, how's it going? First time watching. Stick with us. It's going to be a lovely couple of hours to pass your time. We're already half an hour in. Would you believe it is the fastest moving 2 hours of the week? Seriously, it's a bit mental. Got mixed reviews on the audio last week. If you watch a couple of Sundays ago, I would have been on my original audio. And then last week I swapped over to this Rode mic system, which is here, which is a very expensive system, but it works very well for podcast. But I switched over to this, and some people seem to really like it. Like, it became like a radio station feel to it. And other people didn't like the idea. It became kind of like compressed or something. Like, it was coming out, because people... The thing is, people watch this Sunday service on various different systems. So some people watch it on a phone with headphones. Other people watch it on a 60-inch television with surround sound. So I'm trying to give both of you the best version of the audio, because I always do this as a sort of an audio, like a radio show. I know YouTube don't let you close the app unless you subscribe to the YouTube environment. Cross 13 says, spend a lot of time on US and UK military bases. I bet, did you wear a Garmin watch while you were there? Haven't they banned all the Garmin stuff and all the watches that record your locations the whole time? Because people were going running around the bases, and it was uploading it all to like Runkeeper and all that kind of places, and what they were doing was mapping out military bases by using the Garmin watches to do it, unintentionally, like. All have enforced policies of reverse parking, so in emergency cars can clear the area quickly. Military police stress you down if you forget. Correct. And I'd be the same. If I go along to a launch here in Ireland, and you go along to a lot of journalists turning up, the amount of pressure you feel to park, because all these guys are here and they're all reversing in space and all making a car fit perfectly. So there's a lot of pressure to park in the right way. So it's really important that you reverse into spaces. But that pressure comes out really good, because when it's time to go, it's like bang, everybody's just gone. You drive out of spaces because you can get out very quickly. And the same applies to just parking in normal life. I've reverse parked for ages. Like you say, Cross, same thing. It's a habit for me now as well. I try to parallel park by reversing into spaces. You try to do everything, you know what I mean, in that way to try and reverse into space. We need to do more of that on the tests here in Ireland, on the reviews of how we teach driving and what we're testing on. Reversing into space and driving on motorways will be two of the things that I think we should be looking at really importantly. Xperior Limited Martin says you should get Euro Truck Simulator 2 and Iberia DLC Portugal and Spain when it comes out in April the 8th. I will, once I get myself a steering wheel. Do you know how hard it is to get one of those Logitech steering wheels? They used to be common as muck. Now they're gone. They just don't exist anymore. They're still there, but just out of stock all the time. Every time I want them, they're out of stock. It's terrible. A blah de blah. That's good. Hey Bob, any concerns on a 192 1.5 litre petrol Passat Saloon or line? Low mileage for family car. Any known issue with them? Anyone would much appreciate thanks in advance. No, I don't have any 1.5 petrol. No problem. My wife came in to inspect the amount of colours. You can see this from space, right? You can. Like the room, seriously. I have lights all over the place now that's running. But it makes me look terrible on screen, but that's okay, because you're not here to look at me. Don't be looking. Listen, it's fine. But it's weird to see all the colours flying around me. I hope it's not too distracting. The background colours are all going as well, which is kind of cool. Anyway, the 1.5 petrol Passat Saloon or low mileage 192 for family car be fine. It depends on your mileage. The 1.5 petrol is not bad. It's a reboard 1.4 TSI, which would have been a standard car, and they upgraded the engine to be 1.5. It suffers from a thing called kangarooing at the beginning when it came out first. Seems to be a software problem. It's solved now. But there's no problems with them. They don't have any big deals that you need to worry too much about. And it's a good car. Passat's really good. I mean, it's a big car. If you really want to get very practical, go for the estate version. I always tend to push people towards estates instead of saloons because I just think they hold so much stuff in them. Eric Watcher says, I always reverse park. Even with cameras, there are always blind spots where you don't see small kids. Correct, you do, yeah, for sure. The problem with cars now is they're actually quite hard to get visibility out of the back, a lot of them. Looking through the back window can be quite difficult trying to figure out your space and zone. A lot of cars now have cross traffic assist on them as well, so when you are reversing out of a space that they actually are looking out for you on both sides. Other cars don't really have that much visibility. Most of them have cameras these days. Even my MG there has a reversing camera and reversing sensors as well on them. What's kind of worrying is when they put in a camera and not sensors, or they put in sensors and no cameras. It's kind of weird. You don't know what you're looking. That's just for me. It's just a journalist thing that happens a lot. You get into a car, you're not sure whether it's going to be beep, 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 or it's going to be crash, 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 and backwards. Thoughts on mild hybrids? Mild hybrids are... Okay, so the problem is, what is a mild hybrid is the first thing, right? Mild hybrids range from a thing that has a small battery that runs the electrics of a car. That's it. Doesn't do any assistance on the car to a thing that helps the car get to 18 kilometers an hour and then cuts out anyway. So there's a kind of range of mild hybrids. You can, if you look at statistics long enough, you could basically make anything proof, right? I think mild hybrids are a bit of a joke at the moment. They're designed to get around emissions standards and emissions tests and to get lower tax rates, and it's kind of a dead end. Sort of, it's a way of just getting cars on the road and calling them mild hybrids. But it really, as mild hybrids goes, there can be good cars, but I think we're emphasizing too heavily on the fuel that they are. You'd be better off buying a lighter car with less weight in the car, and you get better fuel economy from it. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to figure out which one is which. But mild hybrids, I think, are going to be a dead end eventually. As we turn into more PHEV, which can be made to work and do good mileage. And then, of course, full electric BEVs, which would be the other part of that, which where we're heading. Slowly but surely we're going to get there. There's no need to panic. There's no need to rush into this. It'd be great if we started picking up more, because the conversation dies. And some people will be cut out of the conversation the more electric cars be on the road, because the demand for everybody to change to electric, when they've changed, then the demand ends. So it's supply and demand at the moment. But the price of the electric cars have to come down. It really does have to come down a little bit. No one cares anymore. Happy Easter, Mick Mulcahy. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Missed that. Don't be spamming in the chat. Relax, lads. Relax. We get around to everybody. Sooner or later, we get around to everybody. No one cares. I've been to India. It's a holy show. You're right. I've never been. I haven't been to India, but I've looked at enough videos of people in India to go, that looks scary. I'd love to drive. In India. Anyway, Wesley Ruttle. Hi, Bob. How are you getting on with the electrical MG? Happy Easter. Great. MG's been lovely. MG Ireland has been on to me. There's an update for the car, for sure. There is actually a software update, but we need to get the social distancing bit to disappear first before we can do it. I've spoken a number of times to the chief engineer for MG Ireland, and he's testing something else for me, because I found the press car and my own car could only charge at a maximum of 30 kilowatts at a fast charger. Any fast charger. I tried 3 chargers, 2 cars, and they both charged at the same rate. So I thought it was just battery condition or something on my own car, but it seems to be a problem with all of them. And so he's after going to get MG himself, and see, MG came out in the middle of lockdown, so they never really fast charged the cars here, so they don't really have any of that data. So he was very curious, and I've spoken a number of times on the phone now, but he's getting stuck in queues, and it's weird. The electric cars, he wants to go on fast charge, and when he goes to fast charge, there's a queue for the fast charger, and he runs out of time and he has to go back again. So he'll get around to it after the weekend, and I'll get around to the software update. But seriously, really good car, great value. I've had no problems with it whatsoever. We got one error message on the screen the other day, but it hasn't repeated. The error message was high voltage something, battery fault, something like that. But I couldn't reproduce that same thing. It was only when we started. Hit the like button, says Eric Watchard. Yeah, that'd be great if you could. 260 if you're here. I know some of you can't see a like button because you're watching on TV, but if you can, it'd be great. James Wilchin. Hi, Bob. All supermarket parking spaces are all drive-in spaces. Even the single rows have bollards, so you can't get the shopping trolley to the back of the car. You are correct, James. That is the problem here. We build car park spaces in a very strange way. We design them as if we're supposed to drive into them when you should be reversing into them. But if you reverse in, you probably can't get your trolley up to the back of your car. This is the biggest issue as well. So there is huge changes to make. But generally speaking, you should, as often as you can, reverse into space, because as my brilliant friend Tony Toner once pointed out to me, you never know when your welcome will wear out and it's time to go. So you want to get out there in a big, quick hurry. Reversing into space means you get out a little bit faster. But obviously, car park spaces do have problems like that. Patman, girlfriend got me a cake with your logo on it for my 21st birthday. Get out, Patman. Is she? Deadly. I love it. That's deadly. Bobflavin.com if you want to get actually hoodies and things will be coming out soon, and I mean very soon, like next 24 hours. It'd be easier to translate the concept into a real car when it's an EV, as they can just have the same manufacturing and packaging constraints as combustion vehicles. I know, yeah, and it's quite weird to hear Volkswagen Group say that they just want to, they're going to have the same chassis, motors, battery unit underneath. You just choose the shell. Essentially, you just choose the shell and the interior of it. Maybe even just the colour of it. So you go an ID4. I want an ID4 in blue with 21-inch alloys, and I want a cream interior. End of story. That's you finish. You're not choosing the more bits in it, whether it's going to be petrol or diesel or PHEV. It's electric. That's it. The other thing obviously you choose then is range. I'll be buying a Renault 5. If you do, David, send us pictures, because that Renault 5 is absolutely gorgeous looking. I can't wait to have a little spin in it. We'll see we'll just see what Renault's going to do with Ireland, because they seem to be a little bit of lack of confidence, I feel, from Renault and Dacia as they announce electric cars in other districts, but they don't seem to want to come here. Maybe that'll change. Maybe it'll change over the next while. Everybody, all the other car manufacturers are going, woo, woo. Don't bring them in. I can't pronounce your name because it looks a little bit like Russian. So I can't pronounce that. Maybe I'm wrong. Could not be Russian, but it looks like acrylic writing. Hello, Bob. What new car with a diesel engine, manual transmission, under 35,000 would you recommend? God, you're going to struggle to find. I know that sounds terrible, but you're actually going to find that a struggle to get. There is plenty of diesel cars out there, but getting a manual one can be a problem. But The one I would think of straight off the top of my head would be something like a Skoda Octavia. There'd be VW Passat. They still have good diesel engines, still have good machines underneath as well. DSG, nothing wrong with DSG. In fairness, they're nearly the same fuel economy as a manual gearbox these days. I'm not long after dropping back to Tiguan R as well, which is also a bloody good car. Now, probably not what you're looking for, but I'd buy, personally speaking, I'd buy an estate Passat or an estate Octavia. Oh, Paddy Collins in the chat as well. Cars insured for anyone driving with the permission of the brand. There you go. That's how the insurance works for car companies. Paddy was down here yesterday, but Paddy's here as well. ID4 is the best-selling overall car in March, according to Paddy there, which that's why you're starting to see them everywhere, which is really good news because it's a big car, and that's what I like. So you have ID3 now and ID4. There will be an ID 5 coming out at some point in the future. There's a smaller one, ID2, I think, as well. So the brand has really expanded beyond that. You'll find then, of course, the group will start to do the same thing. Like there's the Audi e-tron GT, which I'm testing next week. There's the Audi e-tron Sportback, is it called? I think you call it. And then there's the Seat L Born. I think there's just changed that to Born recently. So the whole group is starting to move on with electric cars. And then the Skoda Enyaq, which will be out later on this year. But I think that's sold out, the allocation of that for this year. Aidan McLaughlin, Lexus 300e, very late to the EV market considering they have had hybrid cars from way back. Range, price play a big part when you're going electric. Do you think Lexus would use a decent charge? The Lexus charge thing with the CHAdeMO is a disaster. I don't know why they did that. That is such a crippling thing for the car. Because two things. One is you two charge points on the car. You've one on either side. You know, you've got the Type 2 on one side and CHAdeMO on the other. So that doesn't work. Because that's just taking up space that could have been used for something else. But then two, most new chargers that are going in won't have a CHAdeMO charger at them. So when you're out in Europe, you want to go for, I don't know, a holiday in France in your electric car, you're going to struggle to find a CHAdeMO charger to keep you going at full speed. So this is a problem. And I think Lexus, Toyota, the group need to really address this urgently because I think it'll put people off buying that car. It's very good. Lexus, the UX 300e was just a lovely car. Lovely. It is an adaptation of a hybrid one they had along the way because Lexus and Toyota Group have been pushing very hard for hydrogen, which we found out here, of course, as one of the stories we've been predicting all along. The hydrogen is not got a good future to it. It really isn't going to go any further. So I think they're starting to emphasize the electric cars. But it's a lovely car, but I just think it's going to be hampered desperately by its battery size. Not a big deal because most people are fairly short range, but being able to do a fast charge. Imagine when lockdown ends, lads, and everybody wants to go to the beach, or the whole of Ireland decides they're just going to go, and now there's a load more electric cars, and some of those electric cars are really short range. So they're just going to be skipping between charges to get to the beach. Like if I wanted to drive to Waterford in that MX-30 that I have right now, which is only 35.5 kilowatt hour battery, I would have to probably charge twice between here and Waterford. Just as an example of going to another city, you'd have to charge, you could drive to Dublin, but you probably couldn't drive back on the same battery. Same for the Mini, the electric, and they're all little short range jokes, you know. Frank Metcalf, I'm keeping the Lexus and the Tucson. My wife's love the Lexus. Lexus are good. Lexus make good cars, yeah. Tucson's a nice looking car, I have to say, yeah. Looks pretty good. It's striking to see them on the road. I think they're a little bit fussy on the front. I think the front of them is just a little bit too many lights and things. Just a little fussy in its own little way. But that's okay. Some people like that. If the hand loves reviews, Bob, Kia EV6 or Ioniq 5 which you have, I'd have the EV6. Lads, I have to say that EV6 is a gorgeous looking car. I love what they're doing with the I suppose I won't say the marketing around it, but the way they're putting it to us that you can charge the car and you can also it's EV6. You can not only just charge the car, but you can use the car as a campsite, so it's able to charge other things. It's able to send its battery power back to the grid, which is the way they're marketing. Now, most electric cars can do that, but Kia is actually marketing that. So I really like to look at that. The rear end has that sort of boomerang look around the top here, across the back of it. But you see the lights aren't continuous. I noticed that that's not lit up along there. Maybe that's a brake light that does come on though, because it is lit up in that picture. So some of the pictures are a little bit different. Some of the details, I do like the interior. That looks like an interior that would get made. And I think that's the big key right now, that a lot of the concept stuff we're looking at right this minute is actually getting made. So a lot of that stuff we're actually seeing that they're putting up on the market right now is just getting produced as is. Now, I know some of the steering wheels, like the Tesla steering wheel that has the kind of like kit car, it only has the bottom half of the loop, that'll be illegal. You won't be allowed to have that. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to pass regulations. People have forgotten about Dieselgate. What's happening there? Have people forgotten about Dieselgate? Yes. Essentially, yes. Essentially, that was the catalyst that fired us forward in a sort of a... I know there's a lot of mud around that era, but in a sort of a way, Dieselgate actually sort of did us a favour. It kind of drove the conversation on very quickly because while Volkswagen may have been the one that got caught doing it, I don't believe Volkswagen was the only one doing it. I think the fuel economy and everything else that was happening at that time was being carried out by multiple people because it was Bosch, the company that was making the stuff for them. So they were supplying everybody. So I have a feeling there was more to it than just what we saw. But at the same time, as the story goes, realistically, Dieselgate ended and nobody cares anymore. Not for the companies and the suing and the stuff, the fines, that's all still going on, but that's not affecting us here. It just seems to come grinding to a halt. We all just talk about electric cars now. And that's cool because I suppose the more conversations we have about electric cars, the more chance people will get used to the idea. And I do believe there is a position right now for electric cars to have plenty of charge points around. We need more charge points, ESB, not just ESB. We need more standard charge points. We need more 22 kilowatt charge points. I have per capita, I think there's more fast charge points in Portlaoise than anywhere else in the country. And we're getting in loads of new charge points in around the town here as well. I think Lidl are going to put one in too. So we'll have now, right now we have 1, 2, 3, I think we have 3 here in the town fast charge points. And then there's junction 14 up the road, which is not very far away. So if you miss one, you get to the other. And I think there's 3 or 4 slower charge points in the town as well, like 22 kilowatt ones. So we need more of that. We need to see them more often. And I think that's the problem. Once you get used to seeing these things on the streets, you go, well, electric cars are okay now. It just becomes a dismissive thing rather than something you look at and go, electric cars need a big blue space and need to park on the blue space and plug things in. There's a lot going on there. Sean Hopkins just says mild hybrid. Yeah, we discussed that, I think. Brian Cassidy, happy Easter, Bob. Thanks. I paid $1,000 in December to go on the ENIAC waiting list. Was confirmed for delivery this November. Ooh, wow, that's a long list. Didn't fancy the appreciation of 212 played for a month, so left it for someone who wants more. All right, okay. Yeah, there's been a couple of cancellations, like I suppose, if you want to. Yeah, we're very plate sensitive in the country. Buyers are very plate sensitive. So if we're getting close to that December cutoff point, we want to have the next plate up from that, rather than have the next one. I feel for the electric car companies out there who are building these cars. They are trying their damnedest to produce as many as they can, but obviously there's a constraint of lockdowns, there's a constraint of COVID-19, and there's also a constraint of just getting batteries and just getting supply of everything. Because I was trying to buy, go back to that steering wheel thing, I was trying to buy one of those Logitech steering wheels to do more game and stuff. They're sold out. We were trying to buy cameras here for ages. The Sony camera that I bought, the A6600, was sold out for ages. Brilliant company. The what do they call it? Camera Centre in Grafton Street got one in for me, and I got it off him. So the problem with supply and the same problem with batteries and everything else out there, it just is causing issues that are knocking on. So it means that the supply of cars coming into the market is actually quite constrained. But it'll loosen up. I predict next year it'll probably loosen out a little bit more as the market switches and we get more and more choice flooding into the market from different car companies. Because if you remember right now, I think we got between 12 and 20 total electric cars you could choose from right now at this moment on the road that I can think of. It might even be less than that, actually. There wouldn't be that many cars you could actually choose from. So realistically, you're trying to supply an entire market that fast. It's very hard. Anthony Byrne, I have hybrid, runs on LPG, costs €5 for 100 kilometres. That's all right. It's not bad, is it? I do about 250 kilometres in my MG for a fiver. So I do about twice as much as you on my electric car. Just to put that in context, because I know, because we've charged it up here from scratch at home, and it costs us about a fiver to go to 100% charge, and we do about 250 kilometres on that. If I sat in a motorway all day, I'd probably do less, more like 200 kilometres. And the same applies like ID4 there, or Tesla Model 3. They can pretty much easy cruise up around the 450 kilometres for about 10. So it sounds, LPG sounds cheap in comparison to petrol and diesel, but really when you start putting into contents of range, electric cars murder that kind of range easily. Do you know when Ford Mustang Mach-E is coming to Ireland? I wish I did. I wish Ford Ireland would open up again and start talking to people, because it's like talking to the wall at the moment. Anyway, a few in the UK last week. A nice looking car, although nothing like the 5-litre V8 light bar. I think they named it wrong. Am I right in saying that? Right, calling it a Ford Mustang Mach-E, and it's electric. Why does it even have that comparison? They should have just left. They should have called it the Ford E, or the Ford Electric, or the whatever they wanted to call it. It just seems that they're trying to resurrect. They're trying to bed the name in. And I know for the American market, the Americans like that. So they like that kind of idea of connecting up the dots to history. They like the whole lineage of a car is always good. But this car has nothing in common with the Ford Mustang. Nothing. Doesn't even look like it. Like, it's a weird car. But as for Ford Ireland actually bringing in, Ford Ireland at the moment are shut from COVID lockdown. And I don't know, they don't seem to be putting out much. We'll have a look at it anyway. Ford Mach-E. Give me a good image of that. That's not bad. That's probably as good an image I'm going to get now at the moment. That's it there. That is the all electric. And that's the Ford Mustang Mach-E. That's actually from Ford.ie as well. It looks like that. It has a pony on the front. I get that. I get the reference, and I get that it has the same sort of colouring as a Mustang. But I just think it's quite a difficult sell to go, I'm driving a Ford Mustang Mach-E. You go, that's an electric car. Yeah. That's, it's not quite the same as the 5-litre V8. I'd like to see it on the road. I'd like to see it in the metal as well. I haven't actually seen it up close or sat in it or anything to see what it's like, because it's been launched during the lockdown times, as all the launches happen on that one. Seeing it virtually like everybody else. It's kind of funny to see Ford do something and then kind of they're backing themselves back out of a little bit. But how much of a supply they kind of get is a different story entirely. How many they're going to sell. Ford, like Volkswagen and Kia and all, will be in the top 3 sellers of the country. So it's quite difficult, because you're going to pilfer your own sales. If you get what I mean. So if someone walks into your dealership and they want to buy a Ford Focus, do you offer them the Mach-E instead of the Focus, or what do you do? Do you affect your own sales like? So I don't know when it's actually coming on the market here. No, my God, it's just shot forward and showed me all the questions there. Woo-hoo. Anyway, Conor Grady. When are we going to see driving the Mercedes WAS? The Mercedes WAS was. The Mercedes was. Sounds wrong. Anyway, have a look at that. Mercedes are also closed, kind of. I have been in touch with Mercedes Ireland on a couple of occasions, talking about stuff. 2018's top luxury brand, not very much cars, right? Don't know what that is now. It's not showing me what I'm looking for. So if you're looking for the S-Class, the EQC is the one I'm really interested in. But there's an S-Class out now, which Mercedes don't tend to put on the S-Class on press fleets. I could get one, but it'd be from a dealership. But the EQS, which is the second one that I'm looking at here as well, that will be coming. It's about time as well, actually, because it was my favourite car. EQC was my favourite car in a long time, electric cars to drive. Get a good picture of that. That's the kind of concept looking one of it. EQS. Now, that again, we're back to that same thing. If that could actually get made, it probably won't look exactly like that. Like, we need some door handles and things on the outside. There it is in the kind of dickied up version of it. There's the interior. Looks super. Like, that's a lot of electronic screens. And you notice Honda did this as well. You see this screen over here in front of the passenger? Honda did that thing as well with their little car, which has a really short range. Like, it's a massive screen over there. I don't know what they're going to do with it. They're going to play video games or something, or you hook in your phone, or what's going to happen? Like, it's funny how we're using space inside the cars, isn't it? How we're looking at the cars and going, they don't have to be like traditional cars. You're starting to see the point of the steering wheel being a bit of a secondary thing to the car. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily, we used to think about the driver and everything wrapping around the driver. Remember the whole sales point of everything wrapping around the driver, and the steering wheel is there and the touch screens are all near you. Now we're not doing that. Now we're just kind of making how long before we have a windscreen that turns into an ad or turns into a video player? Sit back and watch your favorite movie on the windscreen of your Volkswagen ID9. You know what I mean? Paul O'Connor says it's too easy to buy full car engines thinking of getting a doer-upper. You can. Well, yeah, you can do it. Loads of people have. You watch as lockdown ends. You watch what's going to come out of garages when that lockdown ends. That is going to be a different scale of things. There has been people who have been sequestered at home for the last 12 months doing nothing but tinkering with cars. So I'd say the first sort of car meet that happens at any point this year is going to be a flood of exotic machines that you wouldn't believe. I even hear there's a Mazda, what's that Mazda called? I'll think of it in a minute. I'll come back to you in a minute, what the name of it is. I hear there's one in Ireland being done up anyway. Jim Shed, love the chair. It's mad, isn't it? Mad chair. Just keeps on trucking away there all the time. It is plugged in. You do have a battery pack that you put into the thing at the bottom here. You can just plug it into a USB port and it just sits there doing its thing. It's quite good. If it annoys you, you can just turn it off, which you can just turn off the colour. It just goes away then entirely, or you just turn it on. It does its own little colour thing, or just leave it on one solid colour like red. I was doing that last night, playing it in just red, playing a video game. The whole room lit up red because it had everything red behind me there. It's just cool. What about the E200DE? I did test an E300DE, which is a review is on my channel. One of the best cars I've driven in a long time, just like driving a limousine. And it's a PHEV, so you plug it in, but it's got a diesel engine underneath the bonnet. It's amazing to get in. And I know as many electric cars I'm driving, I'm swarming electric cars at the moment. It still amazes me to get into a diesel, an old diesel car, turn on the engine, and it says 1,200 kilometres empty. And you go, yeah. You know, you can just fill it up and drive out another 1,200 kilometres again in the blink of an eye. It's funny. It's just strange. Your brain, how quick my brain has changed over to electric. Just think, no problem at all. Steve Hussey says, just bought a ticket for the Merc. When you deliver it, you can stick my 2010 Insignia up. It's €10 ticket. 2.5 grand tickets, 25,000. I'll go Haas with you. Right, okay. The ticket price is nothing to do with me. That's just the way those tickets run. It's not about profit. There's a ton of stuff. It's not the price of the car. There's a ton of charges and things behind to be a charity. So we are involved with Make-A-Wish Foundation, so there will be a donation from the Mercedes raffle that will go to Make-A-Wish. Dan Whelan, might have missed this, but any indication what motor tax rates are going up this year? No indication on actual figures, Dan, but there is some, I'm predicting some manipulation of tax band A1, A2, A3. I suggest there'll be more, they might even make more of those A1s. So it'll be A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, you know, that kind of thing. Or maybe they'll break up A2 into more groups or something. They'll do something in that band. So they won't raise the tax band. They won't raise the price of tax, but they will, in a roundabout way, because of the adjustment, the price will go up anyway. So I think it'll happen anyway. But we don't have any figures on it yet. And I'd love to see something. If anyone has a direct answer from the Minister for Transport, could you get him in touch with me? Because I've emailed him a few times. He's not answering the questions. Anthony Byrne, thank you very much for your donation by Super Chat. Super Chat you can do as well. Or PayPal, or Patreon, or wherever you want to put your money. It's fine. Or just don't. Just subscribe. That's the most important part. If you can't afford it, put it away. It's fine. RKSBK, that's a difficult name to write out. Anyway, Ioniq 5, EV6, ID4, very exciting times ahead. Skoda Enyaq 2, there's tons of cars. Everybody's got something in digestion or is just about to produce it, one or the other. So they've all got something going on. There's a lot of car companies background that have gone very quiet on it. Like if you start to look at some of the other car companies that just aren't talking electric yet, they're probably in the lower sales here in this country. But even Fiat brought out a 500 electric. Now, I know a lot of these cars are compliance cars. I get it. Like even the Lexus one I drove has a hybrid version of it. So there is a certain amount of, well, we must produce some kind of electric cars, or here's one. So there's a little bit of that going on, but there's an awful lot of car companies that are genuinely making electric car strides forward, that are genuinely good cars to drive as well, which is a whole different, that changes the view of everybody with electric cars, because right now the biggest debate is most electric cars aren't actually that much fun to drive. You spend most of your time watching the throttle or watching the fuel gauge go down on you the whole time. That's the bit that manipulates your head, which is why we always talk about range of electric cars instead of talking about how good they drive, you know. Cross 13, fairest tax system will be the weight-based annual road tax per kilometre confirmed on odometer at NCT, and the rest of tax loaded into fuel. CO2 emissions are always directly proportional to the litres per 100 kilometres. Should even put a third-party insurance into the weight-based per kilometre tax, kind of like New Zealand do with a fuel tax, scrap VRT, and we can't do this because of NI. Correct. I agree with all of that, 100%. It's so simple to sort this out in a fair, manageable and equitable way. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. Even scrapping a VAT on electric cars. There's all kinds of ways you could mess with the money part of it. The problem is the incentive, the incentives of grants and things. It sounds like it's being an incentive, but some of those grants are going directly to the dealership. They're not going to the user. So that doesn't make any sense. And it's proven worldwide in countries that have been running electric cars as long as we have, as soon as the incentives end, as soon as the grants finish, the sales of electric cars fall off a cliff. That happens everywhere. It happens all the time. Even the MD of Peugeot mentioned that in a press conference a couple of times. When the grants go away, people stop buying them because it just they look so expensive then without grants on them. So we need to change the way we were granting, change the way, what way we're dealing with it. We need a proactive Minister for Transport. We need somebody who's actually quite bullish about the whole thing to make it happen properly. And in a fair way that isn't displacing people who can't afford it. You have to be very careful that we're going to put another tax on people who just can't afford to move into electric cars. And I know you might think that most people can, but realistically there are people out there who are really, really badly off and are stuck driving, like first-time drivers out there driving ancient Nissan Micras and old Opel Corsas who just won't be able to move into electric cars straight away. It's too expensive for them on insurance. So we need to move that conversation on too. But definitely scrapping a VRT is something I massively support, and scrapping anything that pushes the price of cars up here, because we're just hurting our end users. We're just hurting our own market. Finbar Riley, thank you very much for the donation by Super Chat. It's very good of you. We are definitely hurting ourselves. We're hurting our own market. We're making people look overseas, and every time someone looks overseas, everything else looks cheaper than our shit. That's what we need to work on. We're sitting back and we're doing nothing because people are buying second-hand cars. Look at where second-hand car sales are right now. Compare them to new cars. Second-hand cars have always been quite strong in this country, but they are obliterating the new car market at the moment because people can't afford a new car. It's just that straightforward. And it's quite difficult for them to do it. And a lot of that's down to VRT, down to taxes, import duties, just everything piled up on top of them. Steve McCormick, the Dacia Spring is looking good on the continent, but at 17,000 is expensive what you get and only a left-hand drive. That's the problem as well. You see, we're kind of hampered here because, any car company that makes a car for Europe wants to sell it in Europe. We're part of Europe, but we drive on the other side of the road from Europe. So they have to make us a particular kind of car. And if it's not on sale in the UK, it ain't going on sale in Ireland because they're not going to produce it just for us, just for little us. What are they going to sell here? 1,000 maybe max over 5 years. So they're not going to produce that many cars that quickly. So it's a very cool looking car, but it's very interesting to see. Like even Volkswagen Group did it as well. They had a E-Up. There was the Skoda version of that and the Seat version of that. Never even went on sale here because they're too expensive. They were too expensive to begin with. So it's kind of weird to see what way we have to work it out. But I really think the taxes we're paying here are so insane that we really need to address the VRT question all the time, because it is making cars like that Dacia Spring or the VW E-Up very expensive to purchase here. Paul Fun, hello from Toronto. Nice to see you, Paul. Glad to have you aboard. Jimmy Penrose, EV6 looks fab. We'll have coolant gate issue. I know the coolant gate thing. This here we're still on the coolant gate, because if the Kia EV6 does come out, will you have to change the coolant every 44,000 kilometers, whatever it is? It's kind of weird, man, what's happening right now. And Niall Powers, our NCT and centres able to test electric cars. Yeah, we've had electric cars on the market for 10 years here or more even now. And they go through, they just don't test emissions. Everything else on an electric car is more or less the same. Braking system is slightly different, but essentially the suspension system, everything else, the normal stuff for like tyres and all, that's all quite normal. There's just no emissions test to go with it. They couldn't test, the problem they had was with hybrids actually. So if you're testing a Prius, there is a petrol engine, but it won't come on its own. When you just press the accelerator, it won't do it. So they had a problem with that thing. I don't know if they've solved that, to be honest with you, but that seemed to be a problem at the time. Sudesh says, what's your viewpoint on Toyota RAV4 Prime Hybrid? Yeah, I like RAV4s are lovely, but if you're buying in, like, hybrids are good, right? They're good. If you're not very confident with anything to do with electric, you don't want to have anything to do with charging things or pulling, they're actually nice to drive. Most of what Toyota make right now is actually nice cars to drive. They're very good. They're fuel efficient at lower speeds, particularly around town, because they spend a lot of time on their batteries, and they're quite good to drive because they feel like normal cars. They don't feel like you're doing anything special. It's just got a hybrid underneath, and Toyota's been doing hybrid for a long time. But really, if you're looking at RAV4, you should be really looking at a PHEV to go with it, or maybe even a full electric car. And I know right now we don't have many kind of 4x4 small SUV electric versions yet, but they will be coming sooner or later. We're going to get loads of them after a while. Number 6, Happy Easter Bob. We're over an hour in already, lads. This is flying along. Anyway, Happy Easter Bob. I've only visited Éire once so far. 3 days in Dublin, 7 in Connemara. Good man. You did the right thing. I always tell people when they come to Ireland, don't spend all the time in Dublin and think that is Ireland. It isn't. Anyway, 7 in Connemara. Love the Connemara city. If I ever escape this village, I should love to return. It's a beautiful place. Connemara is a gorgeous place to go. I cannot wait to point my car west from where I am and bring the kids and the family over for a drive over that. Just, even if I could just drive to the beach, turn around and come home without actually getting out of the car, I'd be happy enough with that, because I'm happy when I'm driving, I'm okay. GP O'Rourke. Hi Bob, what's the voucher code for the Merc one? The voucher code is Bob Merc 5, BOBMERC 5, number 5, and it gets you 5% off the price. It's not much, it's a quid off or something. I can't remember how much it is, but it's €15 for entry. It is worth entering. It's a full size, fully paid car delivered to your house, done, finished. You could just insure it and away you go. It's actually a really nice car. There's a video on the site of me actually sitting in it and talking in front of it. I was in it. I drove around it. It's lovely yoke. Really, really nice. It'll have an Irish reg plate when it's finished. There will be no VRT to pay or anything else. But it's really good. Where was I after that? No, power, yeah. Number 6. Have you ever climbed Corpatrick? Years ago. Yeah, years and years and years ago I climbed Corpatrick. It is a beautiful place to do, but it is bloody hard work. I really do mean that. It's not an easy climb. The pilgrimage one is to climb it barefoot. At least that's the way it was when I was a young lad. Probably health and safety to put an end to that, mind you. You don't want to be talking about health and safety. No. You can't be climbing that now on your bare feet. I know you've been doing it for generations, but you can't do it anymore. And that's the end of it. Anyway, Tony S says, what is happening to the resale value for ICE engines purchased from now on in 2 or 3 years' time, when more electric cars being sold exponentially year on year? Well, that's what's going to happen. So eventually one will displace the other. Obviously, car's only worth what is paid, what someone is willing to pay for it, right? So you're going to get that valuation anyway. Those ICE engine cars will filter their way through over the next decade or so, as they all do. It happens anyway. Like, you think, what's the oldest car you've seen on the road in the last couple of days? What are we talking about? 10, 15 years, maybe 17 years old? Anything up around 20 years old is gone, like almost gone. Between scrappage schemes and trade-in schemes, they just disappear off the road. So there'll be a natural filtration of the cars coming through. There'll be the collector's items that people hold on to, which is the ones that survive all the attacks over the years from the tax man, trying to get rid of them. But those cars will continue to do their thing, and we'll get to a point where electric cars will dominate the road, and then the petrol and diesel cars will not be in the same place. But we'll see. Like, the future's not set in stone. There certainly will be a position for electric cars to be quite dominant on the road, but whether that continues displacing petrol and diesel, or we have some kind of a breakthrough at some point, or there's countries who will not be able to change over to electric. When you start thinking about where we are right now, there is countries in the world who won't be having electric cars darken their door for a good decade yet, until they catch up on us, because we're not all this beautiful, safe land that we live in here with almost guaranteed seasons and almost guaranteed sunshine at some point of the week, or, completely safe, and solar panels and battery technology. This is a very first world country, but we'll see what happens with the rest of the countries across the world as it goes on. But because that's why I say I think petrol and diesel will be around for a long period of time, as you still have places in Africa that are using petrol and diesel engines from decades ago. And they're keeping them on the road. So they're not going to change over that fast. So we'll see what happens here. But as prices start to fall, of course, used cars will become more popular, as they are right now. We are taking in a gargantuan amount of used cars from the UK, and it's not stopping anytime soon. There's truckloads of them coming in every day. I'll be working next week with carstore.ie on videos there as well, where we're dealing directly with second-hand cars, directly coming in from the UK. So it's definitely happening. There's loads of them out there. Can't get over the starting price for the new Defender. I know. Kill you, wouldn't it? It's such a good car. It should never be called Defender. Am I right in saying? I think I'm fairly fair in that respect. Just get it up here in front of us. Oh no, something happened there in the middle of that. I'm still getting used to my new keyboard. It's a very odd keyboard. Land Rover Defender. Here we go. We're on the Land Rover website. The Land Rover Defender website wants to know your location. No. How about no? How do you like that one? How about no? Why can't I see that here for some reason? Is that the one? No. So weird. Yeah. I seem to have lost my window thing coming up in here on top of that. That doesn't make any sense. No, I've lost the window. Doesn't matter. I'll come back to it after. Yeah, the Defender is a lovely looking car for sure. I do like the look of it, but it should have been called, I don't know, Discovery 6 or something. It doesn't look like, it's not a Defender. It's not a true Defender, I don't think. As much as I think it's a good car, I just don't think it's that kind of car that we need to worry about. I don't know why my windows have stopped. It stopped pulling up the window. It's back up now. It's back up. I got to work it again. My genius is terrible to have. I'm such a genius with technology. Look at that Defender. It's a deadly looking yoke, and it's lovely to drive, and it's huge, it's massive, but it isn't that. It's just not. It's not that. It's not that. It's that. It's a totally different car. It feels weird to drive, and it's just a beautiful thing to behold. And it comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes and stuff. But the price of the thing, we'll have a look. We'll actually go over, head over to the Land Rover website and have a look. They probably won't actually have it on the website. They'll have to have some sort of starting price though, surely. Vehicle, build and find. Land Rover, Range Rover Defender, build your own. Is it working? Yeah, here we go. You ready? Are you sitting down? You relaxing? Look at the price. Starts at €89,070 just to start. That's the Defender 90 and €102,000 for the 110, which is the one that most people would be buying, of course. 110, serious, like that's a big investment in a car, right? That's just a big investment in a car. If you're going to buy a 5-door car and it starts to go up now, look at the Defender X is €195,000. Oh my God, that is so high. Like, that's crazy. 102 starting, 144 for the first edition, and it just scales up from there. And I know a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing, but dear God, you'd have to mortgage your house several. That's more than my house is worth, I'm sure. It really must be. Where was I? Amazing chair. Yeah, thanks. Ford tried to launch the electric. Here's Steve, right? Steve says, Ford tried to launch the electric by using the Mustang name. Probably shows some of their insecurity with EVs. But the car seems to be good. Big question, supply of batteries, of course. As usual, the supply of batteries is always the biggest problem, isn't it, really? That's just what people are at all the time, is how much a battery is going to cost. We've investigated here a few times, basically a used Nissan Leaf battery, which nobody really wants, about $5,000. Like, they're still fetching big money. And I know, like, as recycling purposes, you would use it for something else, obviously, but at €5,000, like, that's a big amount of money for batteries. So I can imagine what a car company has to go through to get supply of hundreds, thousands of batteries for their cars to put them out. But it does show Ford being a little bit innocent to the EV race. And I still call it a race, but they're a little bit innocent at the moment about what they're trying to do. RKSKSBK says it's very encouraging to see the levels of technology and luxury that Skoda Enyaq, Hyundai Ioniq 5, etc. offer. There is a certain element of what they're doing now. I think it was actually a good thing to look at as well. Again, I go back to the Volkswagen kind of big press conference they had, which is really interesting to watch, because in it they were saying about becoming a software company, which I found a very interesting statement for a car company to make, in that you have Tesla, who are an amazing software company, who make amazing software-driven cars, but the cars themselves aren't really that brilliant to drive. They're very efficient. They go very far and they're very good. But as a driver's car, maybe they're not quite there, right? So I know the 0-6 time is amazing, but that, you know, we can do that with combustion engines, really, if you try about it. Whereas when you look at Volkswagen making cars, they're a really good car company who don't have a software division. Now they have a software division and they're trying to do software stuff for themselves. So there is this bit in the middle where old-fashioned, 100-year-old car companies are flipping over to be software companies, and software companies are becoming car companies. I would be surprised if Tesla don't start offering battery technology to car companies for sale. What have we got this week? Oh, it's coffee this week. Oh, not ginger, no. I always think it's a ginger thing to do every other week. No, it's fine. Coffee's great. Oh, God, there's nothing wrong with coffee. Don't be kidding. I even like the colour of coffee. Silas184 says, review of the Mustang I saw, it looks like a large iPad Pro glued to the front of the centre of the dashboard. Portrait up, looks awful inside. Let's have a look at the inside of a Mustang. Mustang Mach-E interior. That's very noisy, that keyboard, isn't it? I like it though. I love that kind of clickety-clackety sound. Oh my God, yeah. Hang on a second. Look at that thing. Look at the size of it. Why would you have a thing that big and another screen here? I'd say they're trying to do the Tesla thing here, right? You remember the Tesla Model X has a vertical one in it as well. So there's an element of that, and there's the Volvo one that does that too. They're massive, those screens, though, aren't they? Really. It really does dominate that front center console. Now, you could have done away with this screen here if you just put a heads-up display in, which is what Volkswagen have done. They put heads-up displays in. So they put in really cool little guidance systems in it rather than having to put in another screen there. Because you can contain all of your fuel information and stuff on the big screen in the center, right? So you can contain all of that fuel stuff and all the range and mapping and all that stuff can be on that center one. You don't necessarily need those little screens. That's just like a reassurance screen that shows your speed. So if you just put in a heads-up display, you wouldn't have to worry about that. Just saying, Ford, before you bring it out. It's just one of them things. But it is interesting. I think the name is wrong, but the Ford Mustang coming out will be good. It's good to see competition come to the market. It's good to see a big company come out with something interesting. I think their confidence will raise up very soon, and we'll end up with some cool cars. Mazda Cosmo, that's the one, Niall McHugh. That's the baby. I hear tell that not Mazda Ireland, but I hear tell there's one Cosmo in Ireland that is being refurbished and will be out this summer. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Because the Mazda Cosmo, which we must, because it wouldn't be fair now to gloss over the Mazda Cosmo. There she be. It's beautiful. Look at this car. Look at how cute it is. It's so pretty. It's just such a pretty, weird, wonderful car. Even the back end. Look at this guy, all the taillights. It's just such a cool car. That's obviously a render or modified version of it or something out there. But there is just something so uniquely cool about that car. The way it looks, the way it sounds. Just what Mazda were doing at the time was just an interesting point of life for Mazda. I'd love to see Mazda take more chances like that, but they have a little bit, and they kind of, the MX-30s out there, a little bit different, but it is gorgeous to see that Mazda Cosmo. Thank you very much for reminding me the name of it. I'd forgotten I even said it. Peter Ball, I used to have an LPG car, but the annual service and LPG system used to eat into the fuel savings. That's a problem as well. Full electric has to be ideal, but needs the price to come down. MG go in the right direction. I think MG has put a cat among the pigeons there as well, Peter Ball. I think nobody really seen it coming, that price they were going to charge for the MG when it came to Ireland, and it is very affordable. They still have a bit of learning to do, a little bit of stuff that need to get right, but realistically, if you're starting with something the size of a Nissan Qashqai, we'll say, and they're going to charge 31 grand for that, that's where it's starting to get interesting. Obviously, there's a little bit more. If you want to move up along the way, it's very quick to get into the kind of Model 3s and stuff that are on the other end of the scale that do a really, really good job of what they do. And the same for ID3 and the range and that end of stuff. But if you're looking for just to get into that EV range, you need to be in around that Zoe point, in around MG's point, which is pretty good. And the cars are very efficient. Or they seem to be very efficient so far. I've been driving that now, obviously on lockdown mileage, for 3 months now, on and off, up and down the town, and I find myself choosing it, even over some of the press cars that are here. I find myself choosing the electric cars because you get in, you press the button, and you just go, and there's heated seats and things. It's all really straightforward, and I don't really care about the range, because if you're 60 kilometers on the clock, it'll do 60 more kilometers, which is just 2 or 3 kilometers up and down to Tesco's isn't really going to break the bank on it. Johnny Dub, haven't seen that name in a while. Story, Bob. Long time no here. I would have thought that the advance in phones and tablets and screens and cars would be coming. Cars would become obsolete. I can't imagine VW supporting today's screens and tech in 10 years. Who knows? 10 years. How do you know what you're going to be like? Even think about the last 10 years. My first video on this channel was the Nissan Leaf launch in Ireland. Now, it wasn't even the launch. It was the first person who had ordered a Nissan Leaf was getting it delivered. And it was in Grand Canal Dock. And I went up to it on the night and done one video for it. I'm not even in the video. It's just a video of the lady getting into the car. I can't remember what her name is now. And that was the first video I made here. That was 10 years ago, first electric car. So it was the first video here. So people don't think I know about electric cars. I've been reviewing electric cars for 10 years now. So I kind of know my way around them. But 10 years later, look where we are now. Look how the world is a different place entirely from 10 years ago. An entirely different thing. So over the next 10 years, God knows what's going to come out, lads. I mean, it'll be a totally different environment in the next 10 years from now. Thank you, Philip Gunn. That's very kind of you to throw in some money into the super chats. There's also PayPal, Patreon, and whatever other ways. There's links down below if you want to support the channel or even advertise on the channel. You can if you want to. This is open for advertising should somebody want to sponsor us with a particular niche, of course. I've never closed my doors to cash. PM says, kicking myself, I never got a test drive at the Geneva Motor Show last year, which was pulled. Really excited about the ID Buzz camper. That's on its way as well, yeah, a couple of years. New Kangoo minivan, not second-hand Model X or XC90. I'm interested to see what car companies are going to do with what an electric car is capable of. And I think we've only really seen the small little elements of engineering around electric cars because you can move the motors about a bit. They don't necessarily have to be in a space where an engine used to be, in the front of the car. Ergo, look at a Tesla and their frunk and trunk and all, a place to put stuff in the front as well as the back. So if you can expand, if you can move the car around, can you move humans further to the front? So we have the old VW camper van, the original VW camper van with the split windscreen. You could have that again now in electric because there's no problem because you can put the motors anywhere. They're so small, they can be put everywhere. You can put them on the wheels, you can put them under the car, you can put them around the car, put them at the front of the car where the traditional are, you can put the batteries under the floor, under the back seats, in the boot. They can be anywhere, so you can stack them in any sort of direction. So it's interesting to see which way they're going to, which way the car companies will see engineering developing. I suspect we're going to see more and more of the same chassis and engine and motor gearbox things, all the same units come out, but they'll just move the battery configuration around to suit 2-door, 4-door, 5-door, van size, just extend them out longer. Like buses is where we really need to be looking at as well. There is already an electric bus here in Portlaoise. I'll be having a route about it very soon if I get a chance with Martleys. Have bought themselves an electric bus, and they're going to use that here as their bus to go from town to town. Quite interesting to see that development already, which is not Bus Éireann, right? The publicly funded one hasn't got an electric bus yet. So you're looking at Martleys here, who's a co-chair, who is kind of public as well. And they are after putting themselves an electric bus in already. Aidan McLaughlin says, hi Bob, I think we could get quite a few more charging points, including Tesla, around Ireland. People will be quicker to make the move. However, at the same time that happens with a government grant will be gone. There's the problem. I really do think people would definitely make a move to electric if they were sure that there was always going to be a charge point. And I don't mean a fast charge point, I just mean a charge point. I'd be quite happy to pull up in a town square where there's 57.5 kilowatt chargers and spend my whole day wandering around the town while I'm charging my car up to go home again. It can't be that hard to work these kind of things out. I'd even be happy enough to pull up at the edge of a town, the edge of Portlaoise, and plug in my car and have a little shuttle bus that would bring me into town, and I spend the whole day wandering around the town while I know my car is charging because of apps on the phone. I know the car is charged and not charged. It's not something you randomly left all out there, and it's just these little mind shifts that need to happen that people aren't quite sure of yet, and I think we're trying to recreate the world when we know we need to reinvent the world. Instead of slowly moving, we need to actually quickly move on some things. What does that say? Premium quality, always fresh. Oh, that's a cool little cup, isn't it? It's kind of proper coffee cup. But if the grant goes, of which the grant has changed, so I did mention electric grants have changed, but it is on PHEV, so they're just bringing back, because people are just buying PHEVs, so just bringing back the grant on the PHEVs. It doesn't necessarily affect the electric cars yet, but I would suspect that they will start looking at those grants over the next, possibly even for the next budget. I don't think they need to go up, but I do think they need to be adjusted to how they're worked, how it's actually happening out there. Love the chair, says Ryan. It's cool, isn't it? Super cool chair. I like the chair. It's cool. I don't even notice it, but I can see it. When I look down, I can see the colours because it happens at my legs as well. Dave O'Byrne. How are you, Dave? I hear you. We're incredibly slow to change. A good idea. Hurt the pockets of the narrow-minded government so they don't change. That's... Unfortunately, the government moves so slowly and the buying public moves so fast that it's very hard for a country to keep up with what the buying public are actually doing. Particularly when it comes to taxes and charges and incentives and stuff. It's hard to take the lead when you've got a group of individuals in the country and a group of enthusiasts in the country who are well ahead of you. It's very difficult for a government to make rules and regulations when the buying public is already doing what they want them to do. So how do you incentivize it more? How do you get them to move on? But it's very slow. Some people will be very slow to change. Some people, you see it posts on Facebook or on TikTok, diesel till I die or whatever it is. And that's probably true. Probably diesel will be around until most of us pass away, because in one form or another, it's quite hard. Some people just won't replace it. Some people just will not. Petrol engines are still around from decades and decades ago that are sitting in garages and sheds across the country. So it's going to be difficult to get rid of diesel, as diesel has been just hugely popular. Don't forget, diesel used to be 85 to 90% of car sales in Ireland was diesel. And that is down to, a lot of that is down to incentives from the government and incentives from Europe. But, if you think about how the government incentivized diesel in the first place, they did give a VAT rebate. Where diesel mostly comes from is company cars. As people buy them for the company because they can claim back the VAT on the diesel itself, the fuel itself. And they also get tax breaks and things on the car, the VAT on the car, and all these kind of incentives that are still there. Can I just point out that we haven't really changed a lot of those incentives. We haven't really done a good groundwork. And I foresee getting rid of VAT on electric cars. Like, if you were able, as a business, able to claim the VAT back on the purchase of an electric car, I bet you'd buy one fairly rapidly then. That's 23% of the price of the car. And then those company cars become second-hand cars. So that becomes a car that people can afford later on. So it still does work out. Why is the government cutting grant on PHEVs? It's just because people are just buying PHEV, and they're just manipulating the prices on PHEVs by driving the cost down. And then, of course, ticket sales and ticket prices. So when you're actually looking at the price of the car, they often say that the prices already come off. So they're getting rid of that. It'll only really affect PHEVs or mild hybrids, that kind of stuff, not BEVs at the moment. That's remained the same. So they want you to buy BEVs, not PHEVs. Thoughts on a 131 Sandero as a first car? Good car, Sandero. Nothing wrong with Sandero. There's nothing wrong with there. It cheapened and got people on the road and into newer cars that would never have changed. So if you're coming out of a 10-year-old car into a Sandero, you're going to be set. If you're in a car that's fairly modern, you're moving into Sandero, you will see things wrong with it straight away. But if it's your first car, go for it, man. Get the 5-door one in petrol. Colin Whelan, how are you going? Happy Easter to you too, sir. Paul says, can you or one of the team? I have a team. Bloody hell. Yeah, sorry. Put up the site for Merc Raffle, please. Can UK enter? I think anyone can enter. It is just Won It, WON. .ie. I flick over to it now. There we go. There's the car. I was in that car the other day. That's the one sitting there in front. We are supporting Make-A-Wish. You can see it in the middle. There's a live competition. So you can do handbags. You want to get a handbag. But anyway, there is the Mercedes C220 AMG Premium. 184 tickets already sold. It's already happening. It's already there. And there's me. Look at me. There's me sitting beside the car. I was in the car. It's lovely, yoke. It is a good car for sure. But it is oneit.ie if you want to go and enter it at any point. I keep thinking something's moving under my feet. Every time I look down, there's lights going along. I go, oh, so it feels like something moving. Anyway, that is where the website is if you want to enter the competition. It's good. It's only 15 quid. I would imagine anybody can enter it, but I don't know. Look at the terms and conditions. I didn't read through them all. I'm not that well up. John Gerard says there's plenty of cars left-hand side drive that you can't get in the UK, but you can get in ROI, such as Focus Saloon, Corolla Saloon, Astra Saloon. I used to live in the UK. There are more cars there as well. True, yeah. Saloons don't sell well in the UK, and often, like the Fluence Saloon, never came out over there. Astra Saloon never really came out over there. We have a thing about saloons in Ireland. I don't know what it is. Us in China used to buy the most amount of saloons in the world. Anyway, right. Jim Shed says, Bob is right. I've advised a friend to go diesel. His daily commute is 90 kilometres on a motorway, and his current car is a 13-year-old Toyota. Hybrid's not for him unless he goes full EV. No, definitely not. Hybrid is only just a petrol engine, essentially on the motorway. That's all it's doing, is just grinding on through the fuel. It does cut into batteries every once in a while, but realistically, if you're just going to sit all day on a motorway, diesel or full electric is your only way to go. PHEV is just carrying around someone else in the boot. And if you're a long commuter and you're, maybe bringing stuff for, like I've seen ID3s fully covered up now in the colours of the company driving around the place, and they look deadly, full EVs. So, and they're packed to the rafters with stuff in the boot. So people are making this work for electrics as well as working for full EVs and PHEVs and everything else with it, but I wouldn't buy a hybrid car for long motorway commutes every single day. Joe Lyon says, did the staycation in Kilkenny last year. Amazing back roads and small villages, great cycling, and loads of small artisan food and craft shops. Best part of less than 2 hours drive from Dublin. That is a good place to go, actually. In fairness, Kilkenny is a gorgeous spot. It's only 40 minutes from my front door here to Kilkenny. Lovely place to go. We went down to, we did two. We went to Cork for a weekend, which was super. Loved that. Enjoyed it. You were able to walk around the whole city. Beautiful place to go. The best food I've had nearly anywhere would have been there. And then we went to Clare with the Volkswagen California. We took it down to Clare and did a little staycation there in Doonbeg, which is very nice. The hotel is a bloody eyesore. Trump, your hotel. It's an eyesore. Just thought it said. It looks horrible sitting there outside of the cliff. But it's down there. I stayed in the California and had a lovely time. God, I sleep well in camper vans. Joe Lyons, Defender 7. Actually, I'll be getting the Caddy California soon. Believe it or not, Caddy is coming out in a California version, camper van version. Can't wait to try that. Joe Lyons, anyway, Defender 71,310 to 142,230 on Carzone. Man, 142 grand. Would you ever have thought a day that ordinary people would be thinking about buying a €142,000 car? Like, it would have been the preserve of people who have a lot of cash handy. But now, of course, PCP. PCP is like just PCP that one. It's like, hey, PCP. We can work this out. Sean Hopkins says they're made of Chinese parts. Nearly everything's made of Chinese parts these days, in fairness. If you just root around any product that you buy, it's probably started off made in China of some sort. Thomas Hyler, I only paid 40 grand for my house. It doesn't even have wheels. Have a great Easter. Beautiful day here in New Orleans. Beautiful day. I haven't looked out the window in a while, but it was blue sky when I closed the curtains first. I have to close them because the light changes so fast over the time. It's not as bad now. During winter, it'd go dark halfway through the Sunday service. Things have changed. Tesla have announced a tie-up with Toyota. Correct. That's going to be interesting because Toyota doesn't necessarily have an electric car. And I think Tesla should be selling batteries because their batteries are very good. And it would make common sense because they're going to manufacture batteries in their Berlin factory. So it makes sense to tie up with someone like Toyota who don't have a full electric car yet, but have access to batteries. They know their way around batteries, right? I mean, Toyota's no idiots. They do know their way around battery cars. They've been doing hybrid long enough. So we see what comes. I'd like to see what the agreement is. I know we probably won't be privy to what the agreement is, but I would like to see in what capacity Tesla's going to help Toyota. Is it software as well as the hardware, or is it just hardware, or what's going to happen? Because Toyota buyers are a little bit strange. They just are. They always have been. Philip Gunn. I've been a Toyota buyer, by the way. I've owned Corollas and Carinas and things over the years, and even Starlets. Anyway, Tesla, I did that one. Philip Gunn, in Spain, still have a lust for the Renault KZE Dacia Spring. So just put down my €100 bucket deposit here on Espona, Spain. Balju is 17,500, less than Spanish grant of 4,000. Should stand me 13,600. Lads, we're ripped off in this country. We're ripped off in this country with the VRT and stuff here. It's just like scary stuff to watch, isn't it? Really, the price of these bleeding cars. It's obviously our system here, Philip, changes. The VRT system would add another 4 or 5 grand to the top of that price, but it is nice. I do like that Dacia Spring. Have you all seen it? I like the look of that thing. There's also a Renault Arcana coming, which is another interesting looking car to look at. But the Dacia Spring is an interesting little car. It's like a semi-off. I don't know what you'd call it. What do you call a semi-off-road? That's it there. I wouldn't probably go for the NAC colours, although Renault have been known to do colours like that. That's tiny. There's more of an ordinary looking thing. So it's kind of a butch-looking Sandero-sized, roundy sort of car, and it'll be that's the concept, but it seems to be okay. That's it plugged in there. You can see they lift up the front flap and the same thing, which is my bugbear with the MG. The front flap flipping up it gets in the way when you're trying to put in a CCS plug charger to it. It's really heavy. I was trying to manipulate it around the edge. It's hard. Sorry, shot forward there on me. Kawame says, I hear Toyota and Tesla are doing a joint venture. Anyway, that thing on that, Bob, is good for your work. Great to hear you again. Thanks, Kawame. Yeah, they are. They are for sure. But like I say, I don't know how much of I don't know how much of a tie-up. This could be buying technology, could be buying software. It might be an agreement. It could actually be something like the Renault-Nissan alliance, an alliance of sorts that would allow Tesla access to Toyota's factories and allow Tesla to be able to develop things with Toyota's engineers, who would be very, very experienced on producing Asian model cars, as they're based in Japan. So it would give them access to those markets as Tesla, not just sitting in the markets that are already sitting in right now. It is market access is a big part of why car companies join up, is being able to get into certain markets. But if you look, Mitsubishi are leaving Europe, but Mitsubishi are very important in the Asian market, Australasian market actually as well. So if you were to tie up with Mitsubishi on something, you would get access to their biggest markets. And if you were tying up with someone from over there, over here, you'd be getting access to like Volkswagens. So it just depends on which one you're into, AIDS, I know, go back up a bit. Graham Cullen, sorry. When Mazda started doing sports cars, they did take the design and especially for Jaguar and Ferrari. They just copied everything that was on the market. That's essentially what they did. Their early cars, as Asian markets tend to do, they would see something come out like a Mustang and they just make another version of it, or more or less the same, small changes here and there. Or they just take designs of 4 or 5 different models of cars and just bash them all together, and you're going to get a car out of that. They're still doing it to some degree. Like, look at the MG that I'm driving right now, which is an Asian designed car. It looks like a Mazda maybe, or a Nissan. It has very similar designs. I find that European car designers tend to have better artistic design ethos when it comes to the look of a car, and Asian car makers tend to have better quality controls and things. There's a benefit and drawback to both sides. It says, with year-on-year improvements in range, charge speeds and reducing prices, when do you think that the EV market will establish a baseline product, i.e. the average car for the average person? We're just there, Aid. Essentially, we're just there. There's something in the market right now, essentially, that everybody could afford. If you take in MG as the entry level, or the Renault Zoe, or something down that end, if you take them in the last couple of years, everything has been out there. What we're catching up on, really, is the price walk from a 10-year-old car, which is the average car park in Ireland right now is 8 to 10 years old. So most cars that are out there have been out there for a long time. And the price of replacement from a 10-year-old car jumping from something that is like, I don't know, 2-3 grand in price, maybe 5 grand total, to something that is 50,000 euro is quite a big step. So it's pretty hard for people to make that step right now. But that wouldn't stop someone upgrading to something used. But the problem is, if you go back further than 2 years old or even 3 years old, the range is quite short in those cars. They were never very long range to begin with. Now we have cars that are coming in, the newest models that are 2 years old can now do 200, 300 kilometers handy enough. But the ones that are 4 years old, you're finding those cars are barely able to scrape the 200 kilometer mark. Or if you go back further into Nissan Leaf, even from 2016, 2015 Nissan Leaf, you find the cars barely able to do 150 kilometers. So it's that range that people are worried about. Even though we could make a 150 kilometer Nissan Leaf work here perfectly, even 100 kilometers work, because we drive so little under lockdown restrictions. So there will be right now, the tipping point, I think, will be next year. As I told people last year not to buy an electric car until this year, but that was before lockdown, because there was just going to be so much choice coming on the market at this year. But from next year on, you're going to have even more choice, even more ability to be able to choose all kinds of things that are out there already. And we'll start to get a burgeoning second-hand market as the market calms down a bit. Right now, it's very hard to get a second-hand electric car. That's the biggest problem at the moment, is just getting your hands on one. There's not many for sale. Chris HB. Forward-controlled vehicles, like the T2 camper van, have problems with crash protection, so there will always be some frontage full of impact zones. That's true too, yeah, that's true. But you could, in essence, take one of those old camper vans and just convert it into electric. I mean, the motors are so small these days, they can fit into the spaces. They're just so tiny, and the batteries are quite small as well. And the bigger the footprint of the car, the more you can fit in. Obviously, you still have to fit in a lot of batteries. That's the biggest problem at the moment. Steve McCormick says the VW ID Buzz is going to be a huge worldwide unless VW screw it up somehow. The old camper vans are worth a mint. I'd love to see. Now, I've seen the concept ID Buzz at the launch of, I think we're over for the ID3 if memory serves, and they brought a Buzz with them. I think so anyway. But it was a gorgeous looking car, absolutely gorgeous looking car. I have to show it to you. VW ID Buzz is this one. Super cool. You got to admit, you got to be cool with this one. That is just a super looking machine, right? Now, it might be a bit over the top to be a camper van. I like the feeling of pulling up anywhere, and this is a camper van. But as a little mini lifestyle bus, you can get it, right. You know, the sitting in the sunsets together. There it is beside its old counterpart. Isn't it weird? Look at the size difference. Like, just even a quick little look, and it's amazing. There's a good one. TechCrunch has put up the old one with the new one beside. The old one was a huge success worldwide. Went down everywhere. There's a man. Look at that mature man sitting there in his tan trousers, reading his little diary, writing about his life in his lifestyle car. Nothing like it. It's always good to see these guys in. But that's the VW ID Buzz. Absolutely super looking machine. I'd love to see where that's going to go with that. It will be here. There's no doubt in my mind they're going to release that car because they've been talking about it for years. But they're just trying to get normal cars out on the road first. I think it's their first part. But ID Buzz definitely will happen. Sound is very quiet. Turn it up. No one else complaining about sound. Not so far. I haven't changed the thing. So the sound has gone quiet. It's only because it's gone quiet because you turned it down. No. Chris HP. Oh, yeah. Crash test videos from the T2 to T25 VW camper vans, not pretty. None of them old. I saw, what did I see there? The Bedford truck or something. Some crash video from a Bedford truck hitting a pillar. And the whole truck just folded. Like where you would sit in the truck just folded in on top of itself. Oh, my God. That looked terrifying. Hi, Bob and Flavonites. A bit late. Having one of those days at work. Brian, don't worry about it, man. You're all right. We're still here for you at all times. I missed where I was there now. Bob has a car internet raffle address. That is oneit.ie. Oneit.ie. I'll flick over that again so you can see it there at the top of the screen. Oneit.ie. For that car, Mercedes C220 AMG Premium, and it does look exact. That's the picture there. Look at it's just cute, man. You got AMG everything on it. It is a diesel one. It'll be fully registered Irish. Everything works. I have prodded all of the buttons and pressed all of the things, so everything works. You just have to answer a question. What's the currency now? And of course, it's rupees. That'll keep you going. The rupee is the most important currency we've ever had here. But it's oneit.ie if you want to get it. Enter that one. Put in the code BobMerc5 to get a discount of 5% off the price of the ticket, which is €15. And if you win it, there's 2,500 tickets. But if you win it and you're in Ireland and I can drive the car to you, I'll get it there to you. I'll drive it to you. I might be throwing keys at you from a distance, but you know, I'll turn up anyway. Put the kettle down. I'll be there in a few minutes. Genesis X Concept is a lovely looking car. That's another one we'll have to look up as well, Paul, because Paul is one of our members here. In case you're wondering why some of the names pop up on the screen there as a different colour, you know, they get a little S behind them. That's because they are a supporter of the channel. So they put in a lot of effort into supporting the channel financially as well. Anyway, here we go. These are the Genesis X Concept. These look gorgeous. Look at that thing. Wouldn't you buy that? I'd buy that. I'd buy that for $1. I wonder why though. Like, look how many doors there are. That's it. One. So it's like an S-Class coupe is what we're looking at here. There's the back end of it. Genesis is Hyundai, isn't it? That's the Genesis in the UK or US Genesis. Oh, there's first look. Look, it's a first look. This guy. Oh, of course, yeah. I'm just going to stand here beside it and tell you all about it. Not drive it or anything. Just stand beside it and look at it and go, look at this car. Isn't it wonderful? I have flown all the way to America to look at this car. It's wonderful. Anyway, that's the Genesis X. I do love the look of it, I have to say. Really good. What they're doing with lighting technology lately has been really revolutionary in the colours and lights and light shows and flicking lights going back and forth. I know it gets old quick, but it only gets old for me. You know what I mean? It's just me. Like it's funny when I see journalists going, they can stop at the light show now. I don't think you should stop the light show at all. I get bored because I've seen them all, but the owners haven't seen them all. I think they're brilliant. Bob, that chair is made by CXT Trust. They also make the coolest desktop microphone in the world for... Hang on. You mean... this one? I have a desktop microphone coming as well. It's actually here in the box. I haven't brought it out because I'm using a Rode one for the last couple of weeks to see what it's really like. But I am going to be doing some streaming from this microphone as well. So I have a mic from those guys as well, from Trust. The whole lot is sitting in Telford's in Portlaoise. I was in there yesterday with the boys. Ask for Dave or Colin. Either of them lads will sort you out with whatever you're looking for. They've been very good. If they ever make cars, go a long way. Well, you know what? There was a time, you know, when Creative Labs came on the scene and they were out to get people like Logitech and Microsoft and all these other companies that were made, and they made speakers and things, and I bought them and I still had them. They're over 25 years old. Creative Labs speaker, and they still put out some of the crispest, perfect audio because they have to work harder to beat the competition. And that's what I'm talking about with trust, with this stuff here that's attached to right now, and the keyboard and the mouse and everything. They are working really hard to nail the competition. So if you're buying Trust stuff now, I'm telling you, the Trust gaming stuff is just really good. CXT, which is the logo that's here above my head, that thing. CXT is Trust, which used to make like budget keyboards and things you'd buy in the shop to get you out of trouble. You know, you go to an airport somewhere and you go, oh, I forgot my battery charger, I forgot me something, and you'd buy a Trust jar because we're quite cheap. But now they're making this really top end stuff as well. So you want to get it as good. The chair, does the chair respond to sound or fidgeting or anything? Does it just make pattern for itself? No, it just makes pattern for itself if you leave it on auto, which I've left on auto. If you want to just leave it on one colour, you can. Like that, just leave it on a colour that suits you. You can go through all the colours there, white and blue and pink and orange and yellow. You can turn it, I don't know what that does. You can turn it up and down, and there's other buttons there, I'm not quite sure. There's cycling of colours you can do as well just by pressing the buttons. Did you find the colour you're looking for? Or just leave it on auto, so it does a little colour switch thing. It doesn't respond to sounds. These lights in the background, these ones here, do. So if I play music here at night time, they do their little bing, bing, bing thing. I got them off of Amazon, though. They're an Amazon purchase. John Connor, hi Bob. To read a BEV grant is gone when cost is only 60k, only 3 months notice, which is lead time for many cars. So maybe someone with money for Model 3 long range. That's the problem. They have changed it over 60 grand. They've changed the grant system. So with no, again, 3 months is no notice, essentially. We're stumbling, as usual, with these kind of things that Minister for Transport's come in, they get elected, and then they kind of stumble through what happens next because they just make changes. While they're there, it's gone. And unfortunately, it's going to hurt the top end of the market. And you have to remember the top end of the market, like the Tesla Model 3 long range, the Audi systems, the Volkswagen, some of the Volkswagen, some of the Mercedes systems, they trickle down to be second-hand cars. If people stop buying them, they won't be second-hand cars. There'll be none of them left. And tax is a big thing here. So even minor adjustments to tax can absolutely screw a market up in a blink of an eye. So I would suggest a revision of that and give more lead time on it, because there's plenty of cars under 60k, but to get your car that's 65,000 euro, under 60k, you got to change the seats in it, right? Or something. You got to change, something has to be done to the car to make it fit into that metric that you want. Dane Kaminsky, sup man. Nice Smith, hi Bob. We still have no answer on what to do with the battery packs at the end of their life. When fully used, we're still sending them to landfill. No, there's a lot of recycling technology going on. Now, I won't say we have an answer to everything. Really, I'm not saying we. I don't think they have an answer to everything just yet. I know if you watch Fully Charged, the YouTube show, you'd be under the illusion that we have it all sussed, that it's no problem, we can recycle all these. But the problem is volume. Volume usually changes the conversation about most things. When you sell enough of something, the volume of it comes into it. When the volume comes into it, you've got a problem straight away, right? So when you have 100 batteries to recycle and you're dumping some of them end up as power walls. Some of them end up in older cars, you know, instead of being moved on to other cars. And so you can find homes for 100, but when you have 100,000 batteries, that's when the conversation becomes a bit of a different thing. That's where it becomes a problem. Now, there is a company in Holland that have figured out a way of shredding them to be able to turn them back into other things again. I did see that on a fully charged one. I was kind of excited by that. But other than that, I don't see a whole lot of other ways you can use them other than putting them onto end-of-life things, which is to charge your house with or whatever. But I would still say there's a few homesteader type people in the US that I do watch from time to time, because if you want to know stuff about solar panels or you want to know stuff about running your house in the wilds, homesteaders in the US have been doing it for a long time. The idea of a homesteader was they were attracted out to out towards the west coast of America, and they would give them land. The government would just give homesteaders land and go, listen, here's land, build a house, do it, whatever you want to do. And a homestead would have to build everything from scratch. Everything. The whole house had to be built from scratch and had to be picked up on its own. And that happened a hell of a lot. That was the Wild West, right? That happened a hell of a lot out there. So these guys, the modern version of those guys, are guys that are trying to live off-grid. Homesteaders out there off-grid. And the off-grid bit is what interests me. So these guys aren't connected to electricity. So it's not like or water connections. They're in the middle of nowhere. So they do a lot of work on whether they have solar panels, what kind of solar panels, recycling things, upcycling things, trying to get solar panels and put them all together, and how they work it. So a lot of those guys are now looking at electric cars going, well, we want your batteries, because they're going from lead acid batteries, which would be wet batteries, the old style, because they're really reliable, right? They really are. And you can repair old batteries. And what I mean by that is you can literally get rid of the water that's in it and put in deionized water. We would call that ironing water here. And that would refresh the battery so the ions can move again. So as ions hit off the plate inside, they get stuck to the plate over time. When you throw out the water, it refreshes the plates. So old lead acid batteries are really, really good for continuing their life. Whereas if you skip the generation of the kind of, solid state stuff or any kind of thing that's coming on right now, these guys can't afford that. So where they're doing is really good. So the more you watch those kind of guys with the battery packs and end of life stuff, the more you realize we have what will eventually be a bigger problem of recycling. But I think we're conquering it between now and then. I think things will change anyway. Doreen Shanalak. Hi, Bob. What do you think of the DCT transmission on Nissan Qashqai? They're okay. None of those kind of auto gearboxes are designed for big performance, so they do feel a little bit kind of harried, when they're going. But they're reliable, so it's a reliable transmission. It's been around for years. And they've been doing it all along. It's CVT, but changed. They changed how it works, so it's kind of like the CVT transmission. It's kind of like not having a gearbox run by elastic bands. It's kind of weird like that, but it's still a good old transmission. I'm really lazy when it comes to cars, driving. So I would tend to err towards automatic anyway. I get kind of disappointed when somebody gives me an ordinary car that's manual. I kind of go, I have to change gears, and this is I need a manual. How do you work the clutch again? So I would pick an automatic nearly every time anyway. Gordon F, pick up my new ID4 on Wednesday. Can't wait. Come on, Gordon F. You'll love it. I was sitting in one yesterday. Paddy Common, who's in the chat earlier on there, he brought one down, and I was in it again yesterday, and I'll have it again in a few weeks' time for another little spin as well. So it's a very exciting car. I think, to me, it's my favourite electric car in the market right now. From a family man perspective, Mano has a couple of kids already, and we do tend to do things that involve us going somewhere with boots in the boot, and we have all our gear with us and backpacks and things. So we're kind of an active family in that, when our day out ends up being something like that. So I'd be very excited about that, because particularly with range, like when you want to drive to the beach, 99% of beaches in Ireland don't have a charge point. If they do, they've only one. And the same applies to going to the mountains. If I want to go up to Sleep Blue Mountains, there is no charge points up there. I'm not saying that's a problem, but it will become a problem if you're coming from the west coast of Ireland to the east coast of Ireland. You're going to want to get to a charge point at some point. So if you're going to Wicklow Mountains, you're going to need a charge point on the way back out again. It'd be nice to have charge points where you need them. But ID4, the range of the ID4 means that this isn't really a concern. Joe Lyon says ID Buzz might be twice the size of that old one, but it fit 50 kids in the back and one forward to push. That is fair play, because years and years and years ago, I'm sure do you know what? I've seen one the other day, actually. I've seen like vans. I remember going down to Wexford with mates of mine to their granny's house, and we went in an original, not the camper van, but the original sort of work van of Volkswagens, and there was 9 of us in that, and there's only 2 seats in it. So 2 adults in the front, and we all sat on the floor at the back, down on the back, sliding back and forward. And you know what? It was fun. As a child, at that time, you didn't see the danger. It was just a fun experience to do. So, but these days, whoa, a lot more cars on the road. Back then, we drove from Kildare to Wexford. It was a long drive, like across the worst roads. There was no motorway at the time, no nothing. But it was good, though, at that time. Keith Coates says battery recycling is coming on stream fairly quickly in Europe and China. With second life use batteries, EV conversions and grid storage, should be possible to stop the batteries going to landfill. That's the plan. I did see a really cool little documentary. It was DW was doing a documentary where they were showing the batteries being put in to run buildings, which I think is a really good idea. I keep looking at things and going, why doesn't that make electricity? Why doesn't my seat, this is mad, right? Why doesn't the movement of my seat charge the battery that runs the lights on the seat? I just keep thinking about stuff like that, right? So what I like to see is these buildings that are being built with the idea that they're going to have battery storage beside them, which eventually there'll be enough second-hand batteries put into it to run the whole building's electricity all the time, which would be the way we need to go. So I think that will continue to happen. Now, there might be a tipping point where you don't do that even anymore. Clover Video, hi Bob, with the ID3, is it better to go for a car with a smaller battery than the ID1 for short journeys in wintry conditions? Battery warm zaps a lot of energy. Thanks, Darren. Darren, ID3, when you're looking at longer range batteries, you have to decide how far you want to go without having to charge. So if you have a really short range battery like the MX30, it's 35.5 kilowatt. So you will charge more often, right? So you're going to have to plug it in more often to get to 100%. And you're more likely to stay on a charger to 100% because the range is so short. That's the problem. You know what I mean? Because you're always going to stay there till you're full because the range is that little bit less. So if you buy a long range one, you might only charge the battery halfway and go on and do your thing. That's the difference between the two of them. So realistically, I tend to steer people towards the mid-range of most cars. Tesla long range is brilliant, but I think the kind of standard range one will also do your job for you just as well. You just spend a little bit longer on a charger to charge up again. Hardly anyone that I know, like my MG out there, never really gets charged to 100%. We do it once a month, maybe. That's about it. And then we don't bother charging it again for the whole month. And if we do, we just kind of top it up for an hour or two if you need to. So you don't really charge much on these electric cars so far. But now, if you're maybe like Cross, who does much bigger, higher mileage, in a Model 3, does huge mileage per year, or you're looking at one of the lads who are here in the chat who do long range, you should get the biggest, longest battery you can. Simply because you will spend more time on a charge point, but you will get further from each range because the range is longer. Cross 13 says, we're not sending EV batteries to landfill. They're extremely valuable. Even DIYers doing solar. Everybody wants batteries right now. There's a whole website set up about trying to get hold of second-hand batteries. Everybody wants them to do all kinds of things. I even thought about with my Leon changing that to be an electric car, because that would be a fairly straightforward thing to do. There's room in that car for batteries. There's room to do it. And you could buy a Nissan Leaf battery pack, but the problem is the conversion would be far more valuable than the car is actually worth. So I don't know if it's feasibly, financially even bothersome. The Renault Zoe has been approved for use as a taxi. Has it? In Ireland? My God, the taxi regulators opened their mind to something else other than certain kinds of brands of cars. That'll be really good, though. Doran, thank you very much for becoming a member. An apprentice mechanic has joined the group of members. Keith Colton, big volumes of batteries be made viable to invest in factories to recover the materials. The current batteries will be stored and recovered when the factories are up and running. That'd be good. Again, continuing the use of something, recycling something is good, but continuing its use, improving it, making it better over time is usually a better way out than this constant replacement system that we've been doing for years on basically everything. Recycling is always better. Emergency Lime says there's a place in Limerick that upgrades Generation 1 Leaf batteries from 24 to 40 kilowatt. Hamstrung a bit right now with supply of whole Leaf, keeping prices up. That's true, yeah. I didn't know that existed. They were replacing batteries, but getting, like, it'll be brilliant that in 5 years' time you could get a Generation 1 Nissan Leaf and put a new battery in it and you've got a new car, essentially, right? You're not making a new car, just putting a bigger battery in, and the old battery goes to power your house. This is what that's the discussion we really need to have, and it probably will be something we will have for next week's Sunday service, is what we're going to do, how we're going to keep our cars on the road and still turn them over to being electric, which is the next conversation I'm sure we're going to have. I keep hearing that driving instructors are embracing EVs. Do you think this means the manual license will be rare in the future? Yep. I think manual license, or the need of taking a lesson in a manual car, will disappear. I notice a lot of TikTok questions now are coming in, and people going, can I take a test in an automatic? The only thing you really have to remember is if you take a test in an automatic car, you're only qualified to drive automatic cars, which kind of narrows your field for used cars. If you're looking to buy a used car in the market, it'd be quite hard to find the one you're looking for, because there wouldn't be that many automatic, old-fashioned cars out there to buy. So you're still better off taking your test in a manual car, because it qualifies you to drive both all the time. But I do think we're going to see a point where EVs will become standard fare. You're going to struggle to find someone who's going to teach you an Opel Corsa, which would have been a normal one right now. Anyway, we've made it. It's just after 4 p.m. 3 minutes after 4 p.m. I'm running late as usual. It was an absolutely fascinating talk to have you on here today. You keep it going. Every single week, you are the kings of the Sunday service. As much as people tell me that the Sunday service has become part of their weekly run, I still have to work myself up to it. It's really, I actually get nervous before I start Sunday. I do get nervous. And, there's always a point where you think, will people turn up? Will anyone ask questions? Will we just sit there on my own looking at the wall? You know, so there's that moment that comes into your head every week. But it usually goes away because of the great fandom that is here, and the group and the committee and the effort you guys put in, and a lot of the same names that put up every single week and put in their effort into being here, and they give me their 2 hours of chat. I will stay on, of course, until lockdown ends. Then I might take a week off. But other than that, I'll stay going as always. Bobflavin.com, the merch, this stuff with BF logo on it and all that will be out as soon as we press the button on. We had some technical issues earlier on about delivery charges and things that the site was generating problems. They wouldn't deliver places. I will currently only be shipping to Ireland and the UK. I'm not going to be shipping to places in Europe at the moment because you have to work out the details of that, because the shipping looks enormously expensive to somewhere like France. And I will be shipping to the US if I can as well. So if you want to sign up for that, go over to bobflavin.com, put in your email address, and I will drop you a line when the thing opens, when the shop opens, and you just have a selection of 4 or 5 things that are on it. If you are an Irish supplier of something that you build in Ireland and you're not looking to put, you have a shop, a physical shop maybe or something, and you'd like me to put a link on the website, get in touch with me, bobflav@thenextgear.com, and I'll have a look at your product. And if it's good and it's affordable, and I think my people would like something like that, maybe we put it in our shop as well. So I'm willing to stock other people's things if they want. But anyway, thank you very, very much for watching this week. Thank you for subscribing and sending the patrons. It's really humbling to see how much effort you put in to make sure this thing is here. Check out the Trust Gaming stuff in Telfords and Portlaoise, or with Trust themselves, whichever one you want. That's up to you. It's up to you where you get it, but it is Trust Gaming at the moment. If you're interested in that stuff. Not even gaming stuff, it's just cool stuff. And I will be back next week. Take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and until the next time, I will see you on the farm.